Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Griffin Door, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands, dust off your broomsticks, and join us as we unlock the treasures behind Chamber of Secrets, Chapter 13, The Very Secret Diary.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. The Very Secret Diary.
Dude, this one I feel like last time I thought we were going to go long, and I feel like for sure this one's going to go the same way.
I know.
This is such a big chapter.
It's a very important chapter. And I will say right off the cuff that like if I had any layer of like cynicism about the series ever, I think one of the big things that I've often like kind of stuck my foot down a little bit hard on is the belief that the design of the Horcrux concept was not conceived as of Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah.
And I might be backtracking on that position.
I had a similar note in this chapter. I was like, ooh, is this the Horcrux acting upon Harry?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know, in a way that like I think it's so small and like circumspect that it's like it's not something that it stands out as like a major plot point, but there's a couple of what otherwise might be like received as like throwaway lines where I was like, oh man,
maybe they're not.
Maybe it is a real thing. Like maybe the Horcrux was dialed in from the very beginning, because I think there's a couple of instances where Harry's relationship with the diary is unique in a way that really can't be explained almost any other way.
Yeah, I agree. It does seem, and I'm sure we will get to it. It is a little bit suspicious.
It's a little suspicious. So
yeah.
I'm excited for that, because if anything, there's nothing I like more than being proven wrong.
Yeah,
you know, it's like okay.
And this is like the advantage of reading it this way, I think, and like diving in, because it's seriously line by line. And there's some other points where I was like, I never realized this exact thing for like, especially like one of the very last things that happens in the chapter. I was like, I don't think I realized that.
Okay, well, I'm fascinated to hear about it.
Yeah,
because I mean, you're definitely right. Like, I think it's even something like the podcast premise in general is that like you and I have studied Harry Potter so kind of aggressively throughout the past decade.
Yeah.
In the name of like crafting all of our theories and stuff like that. And so we're both on like a kind of like constant carousel of re-listening through the stories. We're always on the lookout for like little details that we missed in the past. But I think the thing that's so easy to glaze over, like for example, like I listen a lot like on the weekends if I'm doing like yard work. And so like I'll have Audible playing in my ears. It's at 2x speed. I know the story inside out. So like, I mean, I could fall asleep and miss 40 minutes, pick it back up, and I'm not even...
Right, you didn't miss anything.
I'm not remotely lost.
Your brain just fills in the gap.
It does, yes. Yeah. It fills in the gap, but that is what's so different. It's I'm like, well, we say we're experts, but
I know,
here
like,
I am being like, wait, what?
Do I remember this line of dialogue at all?
Right,
yeah.
So that's very important all of a sudden.
Jeez.
So very enlightening. But before we dive on in, we have a couple of fun announcements.
We do have a couple of fun little announcements here. So first of all, we announced earlier, like way back at the beginning of the year, that we were launching our Wizarding Candle Club.
Yes, indeed.
Where we would have a candle of the month, and we launched with our pretty obvious candle, which was, you guys, thank you so much for if you've bought a pretty obvious candle. I hope you like, that's like one of my favorite ones we've ever done. But this month is extra special. The April candle of the month is literally called Through the Griffin Door.
The Griffin Door.
This is the Griffin Door candle, like not Gryffindor, the Griffin Door, like the podcast.
Like the podcast.
This is the official podcast candle. And it is like a sugary lemon smell. So it's supposed to like remind you of the headmaster's office behind the Griffin Door.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think it honestly, it's one of those two where it's like the lemon scent is really nice. It's like so subtle. I mean, yeah, you said the word sugary, which I think can come like you can imagine like sort of like an over the topness, but it's not.
It's not. It's like, the sugary part is like, it's very subtle.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, if you like that, like any of like the citrus flavored candles,
it's more citrus than sugar, but the sugar's there.
It's there. You're gonna love it. So definitely go and check it out at wizardingcandles.com.
Yes, and of course you can just buy the candle by itself, or you can subscribe to get a brand new fresh scent every single month sent to your door. And as ever, inside of the candle, after you finish burning them down, there's like a little collectible charm at
There
the
is
bottom.
indeed. Yes.
So a lot of fun there. And then just a reminder, in case you're still thinking about it, tickets are already on sale for Through the Griffin Tour, our upcoming tour down the East Coast from Boston to New York to Philadelphia to DC. So if you want to check out those, there's links in the description there. We're going to be doing live episodes of the podcast, and we have mapped it out, and it is going to work out perfectly that the first date on the tour will be the start of Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes. I know, it's working out so well. Like we did, okay, I wish we could say we planned that, but we didn't.
We didn't. Yeah.
But it did work.
It worked out so great,
extremely well. So it's like if you're there for like even like the Boston show, it's like you're gonna see us like crack the book.
I know. I'm very excited. The Boston show especially is chapter 1, Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes.
And then the next 3 chapters. So if you're in New York, that'll be chapter 2. If you are in Philadelphia, that'll be chapter 3. And if you are in DC, that'll be chapter 4.
Yeah. So if you really want to see me in particular squirm, the everything to do with Aunt Marge is there's something it's the Umbridge effect. It's like it's too real. It's too like you've known someone like this. But there's one line in particular where she's referring to Harry's mom that just makes me so angry, and so I just hate it. I hate that she says it. I hate that she refers that way.
Know.
If I was Harry, I would have blown her up too.
Yes.
Like it's just like, oh. So anyway, it's going to be a hootin' and hollering good time.
Yeah, so come do the Azkaban tour with us.
Yeah.
No Dementors.
No Dementors. None whatsoever.
It's going to be great. But anyway, with those tiny announcements out of the way, let's dive into the very secret diary. And what is the chapter art on this one is one of the dwarves singing the Valentine, presumably to Harry. And it looking at the dwarf makes me cringe, not because it's like bad artwork, but because I can feel the embarrassment from here, staring at the image.
Yes.
The thought of this happening to me is so bad.
I know. Yeah. So this is interesting for like a myriad of reasons, but like one, I think this is the first and only ever reference that we get in the wizarding world to dwarves.
Yeah,
existing.
I think so. Yeah,
which is always strange because I think in my head I have turned them into gnomes, like from the Weasley's garden.
Oh, but yeah, it's still not that.
But they're not that.
Right. So we have gnomes, dwarves, elves, and goblins, all 4 completely different things.
Completely different entities. Yeah. So dwarves only ever show up inside of this chapter. They seem pretty I'm thinking of like stout, but like a rugby player stout. You know, like very strong.
What's interesting to me is how go with the flow they are with the assignment, combined with how like rough and tumble they are.
Yes, yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly. Like it seems like they are otherwise probably found to be like rude or like maybe not like a pleasant experience, but for some reason maybe they're just big fans of Gilderoy Lockhart.
Indeed.
And given the opportunity to be involved in any of his projects is just so
like I'm there.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Just
worth getting after. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's cringe-tacular. This practice that we'll see inside of this chapter of delivering Valentines, I believe, and I can't even remember if it was something that was like maybe just like 1 or 2 years of my high school experience, but I feel like you could buy like a rose or like a carnation or something for like $2 to $4, and like you could have it delivered to like your Valentine.
Yeah, I think like versions of exactly what Lockhart sets up does exist, and possibly to the point where it is like people will like go around the school and like sing a song or something, like I want to say maybe when I was in 6th grade this was a thing, or like I know like around like Christmas, like the choir department would like go caroling or something.
Okay.
And I want to say I would bet that there are schools where this is just a tradition, and it's like it's Valentine's Day, so guess what? It's fundraising for the choir. If you want us to go sing us a song to someone, we will.
We will.
And it will be, and like, so like when I read it, that like he's arranged this, I'm like, it's not really the worst idea.
No.
Like it's not like, honestly, he throws it together kind of in a snap too. It's like, this isn't the worst thing he does. Like it is horribly embarrassing for Harry. And clearly, like if he was a more competent teacher, I think everyone would be on board with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
But at this point he is offended, like, everyone.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I think he refers to Flitwick. He's like, you slide
You
dog.
slide dog.
It's like, what on earth is going on there?
I know. He's also like encouraging people to ask Snape about love potions, which are just like so against school rules.
I know, yeah. It's like even Slughorn, who's like a little fast and loose with rules, is sort of like, yeah, this is the most dangerous potion in the room.
Yeah.
You know, so like that would literally be like going in front of your high school and being like, and go ask any of your chemistry teachers if they can whip up some crystal meth for you.
Right?
It's like, yeah, you sly dog. It's like, no,
don't do that. Gilderoy, what are you doing? Stop it.
It's like, that's really bad. Why would you suggest that to students?
Yeah.
They're going to ask.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but yeah, no, you're right. I do think there's a total like tonal shift I think attached to, because honestly, even like the Great Hall, it seems like when Harry goes in for like the Christmas holidays, I think there's like warm snowflakes that fall and dissolve on your face or whatever, and it's like it seems so like fun and cozy and joyous. And then like when he walks in the Great Hall this time, there's like little like heart-shaped confetti that's like falling in his bacon, and it's like one of those like logistical things where it's like on the one hand it's really fun, and then on this hand it's like it's really not fun.
It's really not fun.
Yeah, it's like my perspective has changed, and I'm not into it this time.
Right.
Even though it's not really altogether that different. So
Nope.
anyway, we'll get to it in due course.
We shall. So I think in just going right into the chapter here, I want to say there's a mistake on in like the second sentence.
Okay,
where
lay it on me.
It says there was it's talking about Hermione being in the hospital. It says there was a flurry of rumor about her disappearance, and I'm pretty sure it should say there was a furry of rumor about her disappearance.
Oh, air horn sounds. Nailed it. I was looking at the second sentence, and I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about. What am I missing here?
Oh man, yeah. No, that's all. Just taking the opportunity to make a nice corny joke there.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. That was amazing for the people in the back. Yeah, no, I love it. But yeah, so Hermione, it sounds like honestly her polyjuice gone wrong. It's a good thing that Madame Pomfrey is not one to ask questions, because a several week recovery time effectively in
it's
the
like
hospital.
A month.
Yeah, it's like
because they do it over Christmas break.
Yeah, you're right.
And she doesn't get out until the start of February.
Right.
Yeah. It is crazy.
This is a serious affliction that she's found herself with. So, good to know that she has slowly de-whiskerified, or it says her spirits were greatly improved by the fact that all of her hair had gone from her face and her eyes were turning slowly back to brown. Yeah,
that's good. I love how I feel this is a chapter where I feel like Ron is completely on fire the entire time.
Yeah, we had a conversation. I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
We had a conversation about let's see, Deathly Hallows, how Ron like immediately sort of seems to like detect something intangible in the air about like why all of a sudden like the taboo may be in place, and he's always been the least to accept like just saying Voldemort's name, but like he's like no, like given the circumstances, like let's say you know who.
Yeah.
And
he's like, it feels cursed to something.
Right.
And it's just like, and he's totally right.
He is. I mean, nail on the head. And it was so funny because me and you just talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
And as I'm reading this chapter, I was like, man, Ron maybe has like a killer instinct for this stuff.
That is. I was like, there is a video to be had about like Ron's like secret power or something, where he has like his instincts are just like good.
Yes, like very super sensory for sure.
Like on like a magical level or something, it seems.
Yes.
Not just like he's got good instincts. Like there's something like intangible that he's like able to grasp in the air or something.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, it would be really interesting to learn if there was like an additional piece of magic. And now that we've like caught notice of it,
I know.
I'll be curious if we pick up any more of it.
Like nose to the ground on it. But like, so anyway, I like his this first page here. He's just like, if I'd sprouted whiskers, I'd take a break from work. And it's just like, Ron, that is a good call. That's a good call. But I like how Hermione's like, don't be silly, Ron. I've got to keep up. Like, for real, dude. Being a cat is not an excuse for not doing my work. What?
Hermione, for as like analytical as she is so unfazed by the unusual world that is the wizarding world.
Yeah.
It's like she just like whatever. So I turned into a cat. It's like as far as I was concerned, I was a muggle for most of my life, and I'm just now adapting to magic, and I'm only in my second year. But so I was a cat for like a month. Whatever, no big deal.
Right. I'm embarrassed I don't want anyone to see me at all, but like I got to do homework.
Got to do homework, obviously.
Come on.
But so then this was another thing I was curious about in regards to Ron is that the next thing is that they're visiting her in the hospital room. They see something gold sticking out from underneath Hermione's pillow.
Yeah.
It's a get well card from Lockhart, of which 2/3 of everything that Lockhart writes is basically just his like signature. So
Oh
it
my
says,
gosh.
To Miss Granger, wishing you a speedy recovery from your concerned teacher, Professor Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Forces Defense League, and 5-time winner of the Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award.
It's so much.
It's so over the top.
It's like she already knows who you are, dude.
Yes.
It's like he can't take. He's like on a like 1-to-1. He's willing to be like to win fans over on a 1-to-1 basis.
Yes.
You know?
It's. I mean, and maybe this is like one of those things like where Lockhart himself knows he's not convincing everybody, and so the people he can convince, he's like very locked in on.
Very, very locked in on indeed. But like, I also highlighted this because it's just hilarious, and I was like, how like. Because we know Harry does detention with him, and he's like writing out his own letters and stuff, and presumably he is writing like all of this every single time. You'd think you could magically do it or somehow,
Sure,
but I guess
yeah.
not. So presumably he is writing out this entire title on every single thing, because Hermione is a person he already knows,
Right?
You know, like to people who are his fans, of course he is writing this entire title out every single time, right?
Yeah, you would think so.
Okay,
yeah,
so I was like, how long does it take him to write this out? And like, so I got my own pen and paper out and set a timer to see how fast I could write it.
no, you did
Yeah.
not. What did you get?
So just to write out Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League, and 5-time winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. It took me 42 seconds to write it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So this is someone, yeah, because you're right. He could magically be doing it, which makes me think what he really enjoys doing, because he spends like 4 hours with Harry doing this. I think what he really enjoys doing is basking in the awesomeness of himself.
Yeah.
And literally like just being able to like dip himself into, like fully immerse himself in this experience.
Yes.
It's like, you don't have to do it this way, but it's like, but I like to.
I know,
It's
right? Like, why
what?
doesn't it? Oh, it's almost crazy to me that he doesn't have some version of like a quick quotes quill or something.
Oh yeah, similar
You know,
to
like Rita
that's-
Skeeter?
right? Like Rita Skeeter.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing is, I think Rita Skeeter is like she's fast and loose with the facts. Like I think she doesn't really like super care. That's I mean that's where my thought is like I think Lockhart. It's like he doesn't have anything important to actually spend his time doing.
Right.
What he's obsessed with is being famous.
Yeah.
And so it's like of course he doesn't mind spend. I mean because yeah, at 42 seconds, I mean that would mean you're getting maybe like obviously 60 minutes in an hour. That's
Like if you're writing just writing the signature takes then
Like
66% of the hour.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just
Like what's this? Oh my gosh.
it's so ridiculous. But so then my next question is that like Ron has sort of already brought up that he thinks that Lockhart's a fraud on numerous occasions. So Ron looks up at Hermione disgusted and asks, "You sleep with this under your pillow?" And then immediately upon leaving, he says to Harry, "Is Lockhart the smarmiest bloke you've ever met, or what?" And so I mean I do believe that Ron is like he's got his like his number or whatever, like he's figured him out. But I'm also curious, like was this maybe like our first little morsel of like Ron jealousy?
I also picked up on that. I was like, is this the first time Ron is ever just like the teensiest bit interested in Hermione? Like the first, like maybe he doesn't even know.
Right,
It's just
right.
like he couldn't acknowledge it, but like part of him is jealous that Hermione like has like is sleeping with this letter.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
but that is so the way of like a 12-year-old too. It's
Right.
Like, it's like you feel jealousy, but you don't know how to identify the jealousy. So
Right.
it comes across more as like resentment or anger or something else.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to sort of see that there. But I was like, that's another one of those where I think we even said it in like last week's episode. We've always been like Team Hermione or whatever, which it's not a hill I would die on or anything like that. But like it is funny to see like okay maybe Ron did really have like a bit of
Right.
that interest from the beginning.
Right. Like
you know.
maybe there's more to go on there.
Right, and the other thing that's crazy is that also inside of this chapter is supposedly Ginny expressing her early affection for Harry as
Yes,
well. So
as
more on that in a few minutes. But that would be, I mean, I don't think we can quite call it foreshadowing, but it would would be like an interesting nod to the eventual pairings.
Yes,
of
you're
Ron,
right.
Hermione,
You're right.
and Ginny and Harry. So, anyway, though, so then as they're walking away, this was just a piece of trivia that I was like, okay, good one to remember. It says Ron was just saying that he wished he asked Hermione how many rat tails you're supposed to add to hair-raising potion when there was an angry outburst from the floor above that reached their ears. So that's just like one of those like, what do you add to hair-raising potion?
Rat tails.
Rat tails.
Worm tails. Basically.
Basically.
That's I wonder if is that a sly nod to Peter Pettigrew being like a hair-raising character or something?
I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see
like
that.
it's rat tail because he's called Wormtail, which is what a rat's tail is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he is pretty hair-raising. He's pretty creepy.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a slight nod to that in some way.
Right.
Let's see. Then they hear Filch complaining about having to mop all night, which again doesn't make sense because magic exists. So the fact that you're making this poor man do Muggle labor in your magic castle is
do it.
terrible.
Yep. But once again, so this is what I was curious about is that me and you have been identifying like the potential laser vision coming from the basilisk because there's like the scorch marks, the melted Colin Creevey's camera, nearly headless Nick being like
blackened
by the attack, and so as this one was unfolding a little bit, and there's like water all over the floor, and it's coming from Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. It was sort of like one of those like, okay, keep on the lookout for any potential, like flame
burn marks,
marks or something. So obviously I don't think that there were any in this particular instance, but there's also not an accompanying attack.
No, there's not.
Although, okay, so here's an interesting question because a lot of water flowing everywhere, which makes you think basilisk, but is it really just Moaning Myrtle freaking out because the diary has been thrown?
Oh, yeah, the water here is because of Myrtle
okay.
Yeah, this isn't the basilisk this time.
So no basilisk situation. This is just Myrtle causing a ruckus.
Right.
Okay.
It's interesting that Ginny tries to get rid of the diary in the bathroom where the chamber is.
That is sort of interesting, because it almost even this to me feels like the obvious, like when you go back and look at it again. I don't know if you can call it foreshadowing, but like the fact that the diary was being thrown at Myrtle and Myrtle is the victim of the basilisk attack and the diary is Tom Riddle for all intents and purposes. It's like everyone's returning to the scene of the crime.
They really are. I guess maybe you were trying to destroy it there because the bathroom's out of order, so like no one would like find it or something.
And we talked about that earlier in the chapter. I that was like one of those where I was like, did we just glaze over the fact that this is an out of order bathroom, or is this the first time it's ever actually specifically said the out of order bathroom?
No, it is because they say they like ignore it as always, so it's said out of order the whole time. It's like what is out of order about it? Or is it just that they don't want students there because of the attack?
Because of the attack, or because of Moaning Myrtle, or
because
something.
like what could they possibly not fix? Why can't they just repair okay, this bathroom's fixed?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Why should it ever be out of order?
It doesn't seem like it should be a problem.
Doesn't seem like it should be a problem.
Yeah, but by the way, I mean, maybe it's just one of those things where they're just like, it's not pleasant in there. Just don't go deal with it. There's another bathroom one floor up.
It's haunted.
Yeah, right. It's haunted. And this is a castle that's definitely not full of ghosts, so we don't want you to encounter a ghost.
Yeah.
It is full of ghosts. That was sarcasm.
Right. Yeah. So, let's see. So they go in there. They talk to Myrtle. Harry makes the very fair point. But it can't hurt you if someone throws something at you. I mean, you just go right through you.
This is so. I like specifically. Yeah. It says, but it can't hurt you if somebody throws something at you. Said Harry reasonably. I mean, it would just go right through you, wouldn't it? This is. I wrote a note and I was like, is the narrator of the book suggesting something about Harry's tone here?
Yeah.
Like, because it is one of those things where it's like in my mind it's like one of those where it's like if you're speaking to a ghost and their lack of solid statedness is an aspect of their existence at this point in time, it might be considered a little bit like lacking in respect to be like, well, what's the matter to you if somebody throws something at you? It can't hurt you. It's like, it's the principle of the thing.
Right.
Like,
you still shouldn't throw things at people.
Right. It's like when people throw things at me, it's not always the physical impact that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they thought to throw something at me.
Exactly. but apparently the narrator disagrees.
But the narrator's like, completely reasonable question.
No. It's okay. It's always okay to throw stuff at ghosts. They can't feel it.
Right. Do you ever have any feeling as to who is narrating the story? Is there ever anything you give any thought to?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's like one of those. It's like it almost feels like it could be like a theory in and of itself. It's like, who is telling the story?
Who's writing this down?
Who knew everything?
Right. Yeah.
Hermione, maybe. I don't know.
There is the very meta theory that works with this book that Harry himself is like the real Gilderoy Lockhart.
Oh, sure.
And that so you have Harry Potter, instead of so Gilderoy is like a character inside of the Harry Potter books, but the real life Harry Potter is then the one writing the books.
Oh, right.
And he's writing all these fantastical tales about things he's done, like Harry Potter in the Chamber of Secrets and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes,
and he's written himself as the hero.
It's just gadding with ghouls. But then I this is always like my other, to take it one step further, it's always one of those where it's like you can't even Harry doing his best to make himself sound humble and important can't skate past the important things that Hermione has solved.
Yeah.
So, it's like Hermione is so absolutely vital to everyone's success.
Yeah.
That it's sort of like, should it be Hermione?
Yeah.
Is she our real hero? But anyway, so so that being said, I just thought that was a funny question because I highlighted the reasonably. That's really what made it stand out to me. I was like, okay, yeah. it's like almost like a little bit of opinion,
right,
shaking its way through there.
You're right. So next up, there's this line. This chapter is a masterclass in the characters getting new information and being so close to getting the right, the vital information, but whiffing on it left and right. They are really starting to get close here. Harry asks, "Who threw it at you anyway?" And it's just I don't know. I was just sitting like you, Ben. And it's just if Myrtle had just said, Ginny Weasley, it'd be
right.
We were close. We were close.
We should totally McGodely go and talk to that girl.
Yeah.
Turns out one of us is related to her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that very just nearly had it. Doesn't get. They're going to keep missing in this chapter.
Right. Okay.
As we move on.
So here's something that I find to be kind of interesting, though. So basically, then Moaning Myrtle points out that the diary is over there. It got washed out. They go and look, and it says it had a shabby black cover and was as wet as everything else in the bathroom. Does that stand out to you at all when you consider the fact that the other remarkable thing that happens with the diary in this chapter is that ink spills all over?
That it gets doused in liquid.
Yes, and it's completely undamaged by all the liquid.
Yes, it is surprising to me. It seems like the diary should be dry right now.
Yes, and I don't even think it would be an issue because Harry sort of keeps it despite there not being any real obvious reason to keep it, but maybe that's also part of it. But if it was dry, just laying in a puddle of water, it might be enough for Harry to be that's interesting. Maybe this is worth looking at. But no, it's just completely soaking wet. But then this is where Ron's instincts come into play.
Yes.
And it says, Ron suddenly flung out an arm to hold him back. "What?" said Harry. "Are you crazy?" said Ron. "It could be dangerous." And I just wrote, good instincts, Ron.
I just said the same thing. Ron has good instincts.
Yes, it's yes, you are all over it. And this is another one of those, we've mentioned a couple of times before, the possibility of the Weasleys taking after their dad. But he is in the misuse of Muggle artifacts department.
Yeah.
And so it's it could be the case that this is almost Ron taking after Arthur a little bit, where it's sort of you can't judge every book by its cover. In this case, quite literally.
Yeah.
Because it's a book. But it is interesting to me that he's sort of no, things can be dangerous even if they don't seem dangerous. So he's totally on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, he and then he goes on to have a bunch of examples about how books have been used notoriously, which is interesting, the way in which the books he describes work, that just by having the readers having laid eyes on them, whatever enchantment as them, whatever spell is on them is then cast on the reader.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
which is like it makes you wonder if you know the Harry Potter books themselves have these charms on them. Everyone loves them so much.
Right, I know. We just can't stop reading them.
Yeah.
Here we are. I mean, so you and I would have read these books for the first time at approximately, I would have been like 8 or 9, which would have placed you at like 10.
Yeah, something like that.
And here we are. You're 36
Yep.
and I'm 34.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, crap.
Yeah.
Man. But yeah, so specifically, we'll give you the examples that Ron gives because I think they're also good trivia. So let's see here. Everyone who reads Sonnets of a Sorcerer spoke in limericks for the rest of their lives.
I love it. Just everyone. So it's like there's just a whole group of people out there speaking in limericks,
Right.
which
yeah.
are not sonnets.
Yeah, right. Yeah, distinctly different forms
Yeah.
of poetry.
Yeah.
And then there's also some old witch in Bath who had a book that you could never stop reading. You just had to wander around with your nose in it, trying to do everything one-handed. This has always sort of like alluded to me to like you've almost seen this person out in the wild before who's just kind of like got their nose stuck in a book.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they're like that they are out in the wild, that they're out grocery shopping or they're out like at a coffee shop. It's like I mean they're just like sort of like trapped away. So that to me almost felt like a little bit of like a little like wink
to those
like
people,
the serial readers out there. Yep.
I do love how like Ron like despite his good instinct, despite his list of examples, and despite him actually winning Harry over, is like all right. Harry is like, okay, fine, you've got a point. But YOLO, let's do it anyway.
I am the chosen one.
Chosen one. And actually, I say YOLO, which, if you don't know, means you only live once. But of course, for Harry, it's more like you only live 3 times.
Yeah, right. Yeah, defy his death at least twice.
Yeah,
for certainly. Very impressive. So anyway, but yeah, so then we start to get like a little bit of like some early information. This was oddly more momentous than I expected it to be from myself. But basically, it's just the looking at the year on the cover told him that it's 50 years old, which must mean this is almost like more of a planner, possibly. Did you get that vibe at all? Like,
it's like it was interesting. Like whenever I've had like a journal or something, it hasn't been laid out with like dates on it or anything.
Yeah, like a journal to me is more like just a blank book.
Yeah, to me it's more like a blank book, and so this seemed like it must have been bought to be used in the year that it was purchased in.
Yes.
So you can probably assume that it was bought like in January but that wouldn't make sense because why would Tom Riddle have been at Vauxhall Road in January? I guess he could have bought it over Christmas break. No, he definitely would have stayed at Hogwarts.
He definitely want to stay because even in this chapter, he's asking if he can stay over summer break. Yeah, so it's just kind of odd.
Yeah, so I guess maybe he just bought a diary halfway through the year to use. Or I guess some journals or planners will start like in June or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he could have.
They'll be like an academic one or something. Yeah,
right. The summer break before. I think at some point in time when we learn more about Tom Riddle later, it says that like he goes off into London on his own, even as like a young boy before he's been recruited. So I wonder, I mean, especially considering the fact that this diary is important enough for him to convert into a Horcrux, it must be the case that something attached to the occasion of him going to Vauxhall Road and buying it from a Muggle shop was important enough to him that it was deemed worthy of becoming a Horcrux.
Right.
Like, it's almost like, what kind of dark thing did he do that day?
Right.
You know,
that like he bought the diary. Because it's also surprising he doesn't just buy a diary from like a wizard shop.
Exactly.
Because he'd have access to them by then.
Yes, he would. Yeah. Because
unless he just wanted to like not even be seen buying it or something,
right.
By other wizards. Like or maybe wizard diaries are already magically enchanted and he needed like a plain one.
What would you say about the possibility of it reflecting his half-bloodedness? Like it's like he's doing like a very pure blood endeavor by tucking his soul inside of it, but he's tucking it inside of like a Muggle
artifact.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
because it's only special because of me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like it's him that makes it special.
Right.
Okay, I could see his logic winding itself around that a little bit.
Yep.
But of course, on the front it does say T.M. Riddle, which I will say that I feel like the anagram is the anagramification of Tom Marvolo Riddle as a kid was, I'm like looking forward to it happening again. Dude, even though I know what happened.
It is just one of the best little things.
It is.
It is so fun.
It's such a glorious review.
And I was gonna complain that why doesn't he write out Tom M. Riddle or just Tom Riddle on the front? Why would you? This isn't like necessarily helpful to get the diary returned to you.
Oh,
to
sure.
put T.M. Riddle. But at this point, he could already be thinking like, I don't like the name Tom, or that's interesting. He doesn't like the name Tom, so he just puts T.
He puts the T
instead of Tom.
Right.
That's
signifies
interesting.
himself,
Or he doesn't want people to be able to, or he's like afraid people will know who Tom Riddle is in relation. Like he doesn't want to be able to trace back to himself later on.
Yep.
But,
I can see that.
But I
as
still
well.
put my name on it. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I mean, we know eventually he's attempting to leave that identity behind.
Yeah.
So maybe keeping it like a little
Yes.
bit more under wraps makes
I
sense.
will complain, however, that 2 sentences later, Ron says, I know that name, T.M. Riddle. Like, why doesn't the trophy room award say Tom Riddle on it? You know?
that's a very good question.
Why does it say
Yeah.
T.M. Riddle?
It wouldn't say T.M.
It wouldn't.
It just wouldn't.
You'd
I
have
mean,
the full name.
like this would have to suggest. I mean, well, and I think it just goes back again to what you just said. He doesn't like the name, so like you would almost have to believe that like Tom Riddle in school has requested of people to not refer to him as Tom.
Like just by Riddle or something.
Right, which I'd be curious because I mean this is like one of the things that that Dumbledore will consistently use. Like he'll never use Voldemort's chosen name of Voldemort when speaking to Voldemort,
Right.
As like a very passive form of rebellion
Yeah.
against him, basically. And we know that a much younger Dumbledore will talk to him, and I'm curious if he says. Now I'm trying to look ahead. I'm sorry, so I'm reading as I'm talking. I'm trying to see whether or not this Dumbledore refers to him as Tom.
I think he does. And I want to say, I think Dippet calls him Tom as well, though. But he also refers to, maybe Dippet does just call him Riddle. He says, Riddle, come in, right? Is that what he says?
Yeah, let's see.
Now we're getting in here. Hold on. Now I'm looking ahead into the actual memory. Do.
No, he says the thing is, Tom. He sighed. Special arrangements might have been made for you. So that's Dippet talking to him, which Dippet seems more clueless to Tom Riddle's.
Right. I get the feeling that. Okay, so here's my thought then, is that like, because at this point Tom Riddle is also just like incredibly charming and good.
Yes.
Like at that stuff. So I think he probably doesn't like the name Tom, but he is smart enough to like never correct people about it, to just like let it happen and just be charming in the meantime.
That's a good point.
Because like
too.
Slughorn calls him Tom too.
You're right. Yeah, that's a very good point. So, I mean, and I actually think it's an interesting observation as well about like what is involved with being charming. It's like you're not in the business of correcting people,
right?
Because the very nature of correcting somebody is like the antithesis of charm.
Right.
You know, it's like you want everyone to leave every exchange with you feeling positive, not corrected.
Right.
So yeah, no, that is kind of interesting. So maybe it's like one of those things he has to hold on to. But then even then as he gets forward, it's like it probably is better to just like displaces his own identity as well. He's just able to sort of like, that Tom Riddle person, that was some other guy.
Yeah. So maybe he requested the T.M. Riddle spelling on the award.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost has to be.
Almost has to be.
Otherwise, this is more of a dead giveaway a little bit sooner. Although, again, at this point in time, as you're reading, you don't know who Tom Riddle is at all. So none of this means anything to you. So
you don't. And there is a very, this is another part of the masterclass in keeping you in the dark, is that even though you will learn the full name Tom Marvolo Riddle, those 3 words will not be written next to each other at all. Like you won't see the full name written out next to each other, because when you see all the letters in a row, it might be a lot easier for you to immediately like parse out like all the letters of Voldemort are there.
Right.
But
right.
they will not. All 3 words will not appear next to each other.
Interesting.
But you will learn all 3 names. So
like
you
that.
have the full information, but you don't get to see it the way you need to see it.
Yeah, exactly. That's so fun.
Yeah.
But the other thing I find to be kind of hilarious is just the fact that Ron has burp slugs all over the trophy.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like he's needed to like attempt to wipe off all the filth.
Yeah.
It's like you got to keep scrubbing, buddy.
Yeah. Ron thinks he spent an hour cleaning that name. It's like it needs a lot more cleaning than that.
Maybe even just throw it into a kiln.
Yeah.
Melt it down for parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. But then here's more. There's another good misdirect here where because Harry reads the Vauxhall Road, which he recognizes as a Muggle shop, and Harry immediately assumes he must have been Muggle-born, which is just like immediately makes you think like Tom Riddle's not a pure blood, not the heir of Slytherin.
You know what's interesting about that though is that like this is one of those where we're in this same scene. We'll have another instance where probably your 3 key red herrings, or I don't even know if red herrings, but like possible suspects. You're gonna have Draco Malfoy, Ginny Weasley, and Percy.
Yeah.
All inside of the same scene.
Yeah.
And none of those would fit the Muggle-born description. So
that's true.
This particular detail doesn't actually contribute to any of the other. It's a misdirect in and of itself,
right?
But it doesn't misdirect or guide you to make you think like, oh, maybe it is Percy, or like, oh, maybe it is Draco, or something like that. Like it doesn't fit.
It doesn't, but it also doesn't let you. It stops you from thinking of Tom Riddle as a suspect.
True. That's a good point.
Right.
Because that would almost immediately eliminate that potential. So
yeah.
Okay, so that's funny. Let's see here. The other little like fun ism from this little exchange though is they're trying to decide like what to do. Ron sort of whispers 50 points if you can get it through Myrtle's nose.
Yeah.
And then it says the phrase, Harry, however, pocketed it.
Yep.
Pocketed it.
Pocketed it. This is like a hard. Yeah. Go ahead.
This is just every book uses the phrase at some point in time. Pocketed it, and it's because I think Jim Dale, when he was narrating the first book, Philosopher's Stone, mentioned that he had a really difficult time pronouncing this particular phrase. So then it was included
for the sake of this. Like it's just like a little inside joke.
That's like an inside joke between the narrator of the book. Yeah. So that's just like one of those things where I saw it and I was like, oh my God, there's the words.
That's hilarious.
Even as I was saying it, pocketed it.
Pocketed it.
It is kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry, however, pocketed it.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. All right, so then Hermione finally gets out of the hospital wing a whole month later at the beginning of February. And even though Ron has not been interested in Riddle's diary, Hermione is. It's like, ooh, it must have hidden powers. She has the opposite of the eraser with the revealer.
Yeah, which is sort of like a funny like creation. Is that like, we all know that pink rubber eraser.
Yeah,
and
right.
This is one
exactly.
that does the opposite, which is so hard to even imagine. So like, do you think that this would work in a way where it's like if you had to erase something and then use the revealer, it would like unerase it?
Oh, I don't know. Like, yeah, could it reveal erased words, or does it just reveal concealed words?
I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question.
I don't know. That is a good question.
Yeah.
But, of course, then Ron comes up with his absolute fire instincts again this chapter, where they're trying to figure out why someone was why Riddle got a special service to the school. And Ron says, maybe he murdered Myrtle. That would have done everyone a favor. And it's like, that's exactly what. It's like, well, that's not what he got the award for, but it is what he did.
Yeah, Ron is just totally on top of
crushing it, man.
Everything.
Yeah.
Right before that, he also does make reference to 30 OWLs is maybe what the special services of the school was. That was just also something I highlighted because it's not possible.
Not possible. You can only get 12 because that's the number of classes that they teach, and Percy does get all 12. And if you recall, Hermione's taking all 12 classes in the next book, and the only way she's able to do that is with the time turner. So ipso facto, Percy had time turner.
Yeah. Which is not, it's not crazy to think about. Like if they gave Hermione one, it's like it's not unusual to think that like she's not the first person they've ever made.
Right. It sounds like like when we have really exceptional students, like sometimes we make this accommodation.
Right. Yeah, there's something you got to do.
Yeah.
I do maybe you murder. Myrtled. Wow. Myrtle. Wow, I cannot. Murdered Myrtle. Pocketed it. Oh my gosh, I asked for that one. That's so funny. Yeah, I can't believe that I didn't even highlight that.
Oh, I can't believe you did either.
I know. I was like, what do you got next? Oh, of course.
Yeah,
That one.
Yeah, that one.
That did happen.
Yeah, where Ron guesses exactly what Tom Riddle did.
Yep.
I thought so. This is one of those things that so Hermione starts trying to get the revealed text in the diary, and she uses a spell that I think this is one of those like trivia spells. It says like Aparecium, I guess, which is kind of sounds like a Apiricium. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like if this one made me laugh because if you've played Hogwarts Legacy at all, you will know that about every 10 steps you take, you're going to want to cast the spell Revelio just to see if maybe this room has something hiding in it.
Revelio.
Yeah, so let me tell you what. If you've only played like 30 minutes of Hogwarts Legacy, you've heard your characters yell out Revelio about 1,000,000 times already. So the fact that there are any other revealing spells at all that you could ever use is garbage to me. You didn't even try Revelio, Hermione.
Yeah, come on, Hermione.
Jeez. Anyway, that's all I wanted to bring up there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like got its own button on the game. It's like, all the other spells you got like hotkey over here and you can change it around. It's like, no, you'll always need this one.
This is
just square.
Yeah. You're always on the lookout.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Let's see. Maybe Riddle got the diary for Christmas and just couldn't be bothered filling it in. Okay, so this is the thing. This is the only thing I thought Ron is like. His only miss is that Ron is saying, "I'm telling you, there's nothing to find in the diary." He's like, "Oh yeah." At first he thought it was a dangerous book, and now he's convinced there's nothing in it. But it's like at the same rate, it's like. He says he got a diary for Christmas and couldn't be bothered filling it in. But it's like, but then why was someone trying to get rid of it, Ron? Why? Come on, man.
Yeah. So he's been onto it, and then he sort of trips right there at the finish line.
But here, I think, is the sentence maybe you were talking about earlier that indicates how the Horcruxes were perhaps already conceived from the very beginning.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say. So the line is, and while Harry was sure he had never heard the name T.M. Riddle before, it still seemed to mean something to him, almost as though Riddle was a friend he had when he was very small and had half forgotten. But this was absurd. He never had friends before Hogwarts. Dudley had made sure of that.
Just make sure we throw Dudley under the bus here randomly in chapter 13.
It's like it's
not under the bus. I mean.
Yeah, the trolley.
Yeah.
We haven't thought about Dudley for one hot second, so yeah, his inclusion there is kind of like, all right, yeah, why not? But yeah, no, this is the line that I was talking about, where I underlined it. I said weird Horcrux power, and then I also said good continuity as my notes there, because it does seem like this is like. Something about the Horcrux inside of Harry seems to be resonating with the Horcrux inside of the diary.
Right.
Like, is that what your interpretation?
Not even that it has to be the Horcrux inside of Harry, just that it's like there's a Horcrux in there and it's like affecting Harry. It's like,
yes.
Because the other, actually that wasn't even the sentence. I do agree that's also, the other one was Harry couldn't explain even to himself why he didn't just throw Riddle's diary away.
Okay.
It's like, he can't explain it. I don't know. I just, why won't you get rid of it? I don't know. I can't. I got this book. I can't explain it. I want it. It's like the can't explain it is the Horcrux part.
Yes.
It's the diary doesn't want to be thrown away or something.
Maybe that's what's going on there. That's a good point as well. Yeah, where it's like the diary is sort of like no. I know who's got me right now. Like this is.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. This is who I want. This is what I was looking for.
That's the other thing. It's like you might okay. That's a good point because it's almost like boy, it's so convenient. Harry picked up the diary. And it's like, is it convenient?
Yeah.
Or does the diary, the diary is alive.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that like we know that that Voldemort is performing, I think, extremely rudimentary magic when he's in his non-physical form in the Forest of Albania. Like that's how he's like occupying rats and snakes and stuff. I don't think enough to like cast real and proper spells, but it's almost like just even the essence of him is able to do something.
Yeah.
Have like some magical impact. So anyway, that line in particular, it's not something that ever would like super stand out. Like, it's not like if you're having a conversation about the books, you're like, no, but there's that one scene where like Harry can't throw away the diary. It's like, that's probably something. It's like, it almost seems more like plot convenience. Like when you're reading it, it's just sort of like, why would anybody care about the diary? Like, it doesn't matter. And it's like, no. There's a reason why.
Yeah, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. That I think is the first little hints that the diary is or the idea that the full concept of the Horcrux has like already started to be fleshed out.
Yes.
I think it probably gets refined a lot, but I think it is already being thought of as a Horcrux.
Yep.
Anyway, let's see. They do go find the shield up in the trophy room, and it says it didn't carry details of why it had been given to him, which when I first read that sentence, I was like, that's really surprising, given that what it was given to him for was catching a murderer.
I know. Yeah. I wonder if the optics of this situation look so bad because it's like a fellow student had like brought something into the school. So it's like, you don't want to like necessarily be like throwing shade at that.
Yeah, I mean, it does get explained later on in the chapter, I think, why there's no explanation on it.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, when I read that, I was like, that's so weird given what he did. But it turns out it's not that weird. It is. I do think it's weird that his burnished gold shield was tucked away in a corner cabinet, because it's like, again, like, even if it doesn't say what he did is apparently very impressive. And if it's tucked away in a corner cabinet, like, how did Ron even puke on it, you know?
That's like one of those where it's like, is this just sort of like his job was to polish every single item in this room, and this was in the room, and so he polished it in the cabinet. And now, you know, in that moment, Ron's probably like, this one's not even on display. Like, who cares?
But I do like this idea, though. The fact that it's tucked away, to me, means that like Dumbledore went to the trophy room and is like, moving this.
Yes,
you know,
100%.
Yeah, like
because I think, as we will eventually learn, I don't think Dippet like had figured out that anything was askew with Tom.
Not one iota.
Yeah. So it's like, I think that's like one of those things where Dumbledore was probably like, come on, man, like, how are you not seeing this?
Right.
You know, so then like when he takes over, it's like, no, we are not displaying this one.
Yeah, we're not giving Tom Riddle stuff on display, but he has more than one thing on display. It says an old medal for magical merit, and it was on a list of old head boys, which you would assume if they have lists of old head boys, there should probably be like a list with Harry's and his mom, both his parents, should be on a list like that somewhere up there, right?
You would definitely think so. The only thing I can think about here is like going back to like high school or middle school, where they would have like, you know, in the gymnasium, they were often, placards that would list like all the state championship teams. So it might say like, you know, volleyball 1992, you know, like whatever, and then like, you know, 1997, and you know, like, and then so on and so forth. And then sometimes for like track athletes, it would have like names in particular. So it'd be like 1 mile state champion, you know, like so and so back in 1987. So all I could think is that maybe like if you're looking at the list from 1942, maybe your eyes don't scroll down.
Not that I think it should have like mentioned. I just think it's like they must be there.
Right. Yeah. So Harry's very close to his parents' name.
Right.
At this moment, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's a little Percy red herring shade here, where Ron is like prefect head boy, probably top of every class. Sounds like Percy. Yeah. And it's like, yep. Okay, we're trying to compare Tom Riddle to Percy here.
Right.
Yep.
But then you also get a little line from Hermione, which also could be like one of those like tiny little nods as like maybe their relationship, which is just to say, you say that like it's a bad thing, said Hermione, a slightly hurt voice. Like that's like one of those things where, I mean, I think you could just as easily interpret it in a completely non-romantic sense and just assume that it's because Hermione intends to be that.
Yeah.
You know, like that's an aspiration of hers, and she's like, well, like, you know, is that a bad thing? Like,
yeah.
You know, but it also could be the case that she's sort of like, wait, would you not like that?
Yeah, right. Like, what?
Oh man.
Well, I'm trying to impress you over here, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it not working, my straight A's?
Yeah.
Straight O's.
Yep. There's more misdirection up here. It says there had been no more attacks since those on Justin and nearly headless Nick and Madame Pomfrey. Which like that you. It says it's interesting that like the text just goes ahead and tells you there has been no more attacks since this point, but like because it phrases it as since those on nearly headless Nick, like it said there'd be no more if it had read there's no more attacks since Harry found the diary, which is also true. Like you start to realize how connected the diary is to the attacks.
You're right.
But it's like it's phrased in this way that you don't realize like, oh yeah, there hasn't been any attacks since the diary was gotten rid of by whoever.
You're 100% correct.
Like, that's such good.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's like there can't can't be more attacks because Ginny has successfully finally overridden her her connection to the diary.
Right.
So of course there are no more attacks. But then, the good news is we carry this thought forward. The mandrakes were becoming moody and secretive, meaning they were fast leaving childhood. And then I think the next line here says, the moment their acne clears up, they'll be ready for repotting again. This is like one of those things where the humanization of the mandrakes is rather significant going into the next line, which is, and after that, it won't be long until we're cutting them up and stewing them. You'll have Mrs. Norris back in no time. It's like, it's so hard not to feel like they're going through puberty.
Right.
They're being moody and secretive, which, are hilariously is also probably characteristics right now of Ginny in particular.
Right.
Where it's just sort of like common teenager stuff.
Right.
We all go through it, But yeah, so I that was like the one thing I was like, man, it's hard to imagine something that's moody and secretive and going through acne and all that, and then we're going to cut them up to save other people.
Right.
It just seems like small little humans.
Right. It is like a funny little, just like, no, but they are just plants. So
they are just plants. It's fine. Whatever. Don't worry about them.
Yep.
Yep.
Moving on, the rest of the school seems to notice that there hasn't been any attacks, and of course Gilderoy Lockhart is taking all the credit he can. He tells McGonagall, like, I don't think there'll be any more trouble, Minerva. I think the chamber's been locked for good this time. The culprit must have known it was only a matter of time before I caught them. Rather sensible to stop now before I came down hard on him, which I was just like, yeah, nice of you to let him get in the first 4 attacks, though. Like, good for you.
He is just so...
I know.
It really is. I said it, I think, a couple weeks ago, but I feel the same way. It's like I love Lockhart as an entity, like, from afar, but when I'm reading his actual words, I just hate him.
Yes.
To the core of my being.
Right, yes.
It's like, but in a very different way than I hate, like Marge, like I was saying earlier as well.
Right.
Where it's just like, he's just so insufferable. It's
right.
like, how could anyone be this arrogant?
Right. Yeah. It's just like, at some point, it's like he knows he's a fraud, and he's like, he knows he's a fraud, and because like I know you're a fraud, but he's like, if I quadruple down on that, if that's the understanding that I'm a fraud, and I know but I do it anyway, then maybe I'm not. Maybe I caused you to doubt yourself.
Twisted logic.
Exactly.
Twisted logic. It's just going on so far. It's way over the top.
We know.
Right, I know. It's like he's way too smart to be this successful at pulling something off, and so dumb to make himself so in the line of fire all the time and always.
Yeah.
It's just like, how could this be
That's
the case?
the thing. It's like that's almost it. He's like, they can't like I'll just be so outlandish, they'll have to believe me,
right,
because no one could be that stupid. Like, I'll be so stupid, they'll have to believe me because someone couldn't be that stupid. Right. So I must be telling the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
a very... Anyway, so as a reward or a celebration to himself or whatever, to celebrate the monster being gone, he decides to throw a Valentine's Day celebration, and he decorates the Great Hall. We talked about that a little bit earlier. By the time it's breakfast, a good 46 people have sent him Valentine cards, which this is like, so question, is he lying? That 46 people, or do 46 people in the school actually like, are they like under the, like in the Hermione camp of like, oh my God, he's so cool?
I have to imagine he's selling a few people.
Yeah.
Because out there in the real world, it's like the whole staff seems to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this guy's just full of it.
Right.
Like that exchange with McGonagall, like I even wrote a note. I was like, what did McGonagall say under her breath after he walked away? And I also just added, I love sassy McGonagall, because there is like some of the scenes like where McGonagall stands up to Umbridge, and they are some of the most glorious moments ever. But like that's the thing about Lockhart, is that like anybody who knows anything, he's not fooling them. but like anybody who doesn't know anything, he might still have the opportunity to fool them. So, and he is fooling Hermione successfully. And I can only imagine, like, even I can just sort of think back to like Lavender Brown or is it Parvati?
Oh, Parvati, yeah.
They're both kind of taken with like Trelawney.
That's true.
Next year, so like I could maybe see a world, and
I guess there's also a world where like the students, like even if you suspect he's a bit like daft, like he almost has like the shield of like, well, Dumbledore hired me.
Yes,
it's like we all know Dumbledore's right. He hired Lockhart, so I guess he must be telling the truth.
Well, and it's even tough when you're that age to have the awareness to question an adult.
That's true.
Ever, because like when you're a kid, you think, you just assume the adults in your life have it all figured out, that they know what they're talking about.
Right.
And upon becoming an adult, what you quickly realize is that we're all just figuring it out.
Right.
So it's like even if we have a reasonably firm understanding of what we're doing, for the most part, we're all still floundering.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's that. So yeah, I have no idea. 46 seems reasonable to me. Out of how many people are at school total? I always do this math.
Like 200 or something.
Yeah, maybe 200. So he's got about a quarter of the populace.
Population.
Kind of bought in.
Yeah. All right. So there's that. So next up, Harry gets tackled by the dwarf guy and is about to get a Valentine for himself. And I think there is a little hint here where it says hot all over at the thought of being given a Valentine in front of a line of first years, which happened to include Ginny Weasley. Harry tried to escape. And it's like, is it the fact that Ginny's there that's making this embarrassing for you, Harry?
Uh-oh. See, this chapter's all over it.
It's all over it, yeah.
It's like, wait a second. Does that mean that Harry has sort of like noticed Ginny a little bit? Like, is that like
right? It's like, it would be embarrassing no matter what, but like, especially if Ginny's there.
I know, yeah. That being said, though, I don't even know that it ever explicitly says inside of the book that Ginny is the one who sends him this particular...
You are correct. It does not confirm that Ginny is the one who has sent it, but it has been confirmed out of universe that it is Ginny.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so one of the things that I find to be kind of interesting is that as many people as happen to show up on this particular situation, which once again, I stand by the belief that Harry might be cursed in some capacity with bad luck, because as all this is happening, like Draco Malfoy shows up, Percy Weasley shows up.
Draco always shows up.
Ginny's there.
Embarrassing thing. Potter.
Potter. Hold on.
I'm coming.
Hold my bag, Crab. I'm on my way, Harry. It's like I sort of love a world where Draco's like crashing through the hallways. He's like, no, I can't miss it.
I had took my hair raising potion.
Yeah,
got my spider sense.
But you want to know what's funny is, for all the people who are present, there are two characters who aren't present, and that would be Fred and George Weasley, who just one page later are... Harry is going to bed before anyone else in his dormitory because Fred and George were singing the phrase, "His eyes are as green as a fresh pickled toad."
Right.
And so this is like one of those situations where it's like, it's never actually said that it's Ginny who sends it.
You think it's Fred and George?
And you know who are two major pranksters?
Dude, I would love that too.
Yeah, right?
I love that too.
Would it not make sense? I mean, this feels like Fred and George's handiwork.
It kind of does. It does, because I also cannot imagine Ginny doing this.
I know. It's like the more you get to know Ginny, it doesn't fit anything about the way that she is, or any of like her swagger or confidence or overall.
I know.
Like by the time Ginny is a fifth year, she is arguably the most popular girl in school.
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
She is extremely cool.
And this is like, I mean, for a girl who can barely talk to him, to send a singing Valentine that like loudly announces, "I wish he was mine." Yeah,
right.
In front of, and which then happens in front of her and all of her classmates.
Right.
It's like, boy, that is some boldness.
Right. Yeah. And the real instance here is that if you're looking at it from Ginny's perspective, she's like, oh crap. If she's in fact the one who sent it. The other thing that kind of stood out to me about this particular poem is the phrase, "the hero who conquered the Dark Lord."
Yeah, the fact that the phrase "the Dark Lord" in here, I circled that and I was like, this line is the theory fodder line.
Yeah, because I mean that, I just said Fred and George, but like the one that might make sense here is we know that Ginny has been communicating quite a bit with Tom Riddle.
Yeah.
And so like the only people who ever refer to Voldemort as the Dark Lord are not usually his adversaries, but rather his...
Just the Death Eaters.
It's just the Death Eaters,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of rare for anybody else to refer to them that way. So if Ginny has been so occupied by the essence of Voldemort, Tom Riddle himself, then maybe that might inform
Like
her.
she's been exposed to the phrase "the Dark Lord" a
Yes,
bunch,
yeah.
as a way to name Voldemort. The other then, the other also suspect, or which could explain why Draco was there, is Draco, because his dad would have been a Death Eater.
That's
and
also true.
He would, of course, love to embarrass Harry. And he shows up. So I love the idea that Draco sends Harry a Valentine.
Okay, now I'm loving the headcanon of Draco pacing in the dungeons, holding a diary of his own, trying to be like, hey, can I really rhyme pickled toad with Dark Lord,
Yeah.
or whatever, or blackboard. It's
Yeah.
like, it's a bit of a slant rhyme, isn't it?
Yeah.
It'll work. That's the real reason that
Oh my gosh.
he comes bustling in out of nowhere.
Okay, let us know in the comments whether, I think it's confirmed that it was Ginny, but let us know, do you think it was Ginny, Fred and George, or Draco who sends
Draco.
Harry the Valentine?
Yeah. It's and I think it's like disregard any information we might know out of universe.
Right.
Focus only on what's happening in page.
What
right
is the
now.
best version of it?
Because really, let's face it, Draco shows up in a hurry.
Draco shows up in a hurry. Potter!
I think we can all tell that he's a little bit out of breath. It says, "What's going on here?" But I think it's more like, "What's going on here, guys?"
What's going on? What's going on? You got a Valentine? Who said that? Not me.
Wow, this is so funny. Ha. Anyway, people will be crying with mirth, which I also underlined because I was like, just the idea. This whole scene is mortifying.
It is so bad. If this happened to you, you'd be like, I'm dead.
Yeah,
I'm dead. Send me home. This is it. Yeah, look, we've been talking. I told you we were going to do long. We've been talking for 57 minutes now, and we haven't gotten into the diary yet.
Well, we're doing our best. Here.
We're getting there.
We're
It's okay. We're just going to power forward.
We're gonna power forward. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. So then this is another good misdirect here because Harry falls over, rips the bag, and Draco picks up the diary. God, that would be even worse. But then it says Ginny was staring from the diary to Harry, looking terrified. Which once you know that it's Ginny, you're like, oh, she's looking at it, and she's like, oh my God, no, please don't figure it out.
Right.
Like not Harry of all people.
Right.
But from your perspective, it's just like, it's like, Ginny has a crush on Harry, and like what you're reading is like, oh no, Draco has Harry's diary. No, that's so embarrassing. Like that's such bad news.
Right.
And it's like, that's not what's happening. It's like all really being spelled out for you now.
I know, but do you also not feel like this scene kind of diffuses any suspicion of Draco altogether? Which we've kind of already learned that it's not Draco anyway. But like, Draco doesn't know what this diary is,
right?
So like, he's not picking it up, being like, wait a second, like it would be kind of crazy if it was like Draco looked from the diary to Harry and a look of confusion fell across his face. It'd be like,
no, I think it's just that the idea that like Ginny is able to recognize that Harry's worst enemy has just picked up what she perceives as his personal diary.
Yes, right, yes.
Which would also be bad news.
It would be.
Yeah.
But so is this our first use of Expelliarmus?
It is.
So,
I think so. This is it. Yeah.
Okay, so that means that Harry's first ever and last on-page use of Expelliarmus are both on Tom Riddle.
Oh, wait, no, because he...
Well, it's...
Interesting. Well, because he cast it at Draco.
I guess he cast it at Draco.
Yeah.
But it's over the diary, which is Tom Riddle. And he uses Expelliarmus in the final duel.
That is interesting. You're right. Right. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, yeah. So that's his first. This is his first use of Expelliarmus, which I guess is at Draco and Tom Riddle.
Yes.
I'll take it. And eventually he does. Interestingly, he will later manually disarm Draco, which is what allows his final Expelliarmus to kill Voldemort.
Also true.
Yeah.
Also true. Yeah. So it's a 1-2 punch.
It is. It is.
Yeah, a little homage.
So there's that. Here. Okay. I guess he doesn't knock Draco's wand out of his hand here. That'd be interesting if Harry becomes master of Draco's wand in this moment, but obviously not. Does Snape become master of Lockhart's wand in the dueling club?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The wand was like, he beat you.
He got you, man.
You lost.
You lost. Not that you've cast a spell with me in like years, but
Right, yeah. But no chance. But no chance. He's clearly
no
more
chance.
powerful.
Snape is the master of Lockhart's wand. Fact. There we go.
Yep. There we go. Okay, so let's scoot forward a little bit. We'll try to find our way inside of the diary. The one thing I want to touch on just barely at all is the fact that the ink that does pour all over all of Harry's books is scarlet ink, which is this. I mean, to me, this could be a trivia question. Like, it would be like, what is the color of Harry's ink that spills all over his books? Because
Harry's writing in red ink.
yes, exactly.
What?
Why is he writing in
No,
red ink?
Harry.
Kind of creepy.
It's dude writing there. This is like a legitimate like psychological like thing where like when like teachers should like if they write in red ink, it's like more stress inducing. Like if they grade in red ink versus like green ink or something.
For the teacher or for the student?
For the, like if a student like if they mark up the paper in red ink,
They're more likely to be a harsh.
No, like when the student gets the paper back, it is more likely to give them a much more negative.
Yeah, 100%.
Like if you got like even if you made a ton of mistakes, if it's marked up in green ink, it doesn't feel nearly as bad as if it's in red ink.
Right.
But writing in red ink, that's just hard. Like if everything is in red, that's hard to read.
I know. Yeah, it's like and
bad graphic design, Harry.
Well, yeah, right. But like also, we're inside of a school year where there is like blood written walls.
I know. Right? Like, what are you doing?
It's like, just go and choose a different any color other than red. It's like you're making me Harry. I gotta say, you must be narrating this story because you're leaving out some important details why people might suspect you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it looks like you're writing in blood. So anyway, Harry finally pulls out his quill and starts writing inside of the diary and says, "My name is Harry Potter," to which the diary itself responds, "Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle.
Woo-hoo.
How did you come by my diary?" To which I got chills when I read it. I was like,
oh man, it's happening. He's talking to Voldemort.
Here we are. We are inside of it. And I love that Harry's response is, "Someone tried to flush it down a toilet." To which Tom Riddle's reply must have been like, "What the?"
Yeah, but he's so charming.
He is so charming. He's all over it.
Lucky I recorded my memories in some more lasting ways than ink.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, he's quite good. I do like. What's interesting is that you can almost compare Harry's interactions with the diary to his interactions with the Half-Blood Prince, which doesn't write back to him, but it has so much writing on it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like he almost starts seeing Tom as a friend in the same way he starts seeing the Half-Blood Prince as a friend. But like obviously Tom, he like uncovers much faster and he's clearly Voldemort and the bad guy, but then Snape is not that.
Well, yeah, no. The other thing I find to be kind of interesting here, though, is like maybe even on some level, Lockhart is meant to serve in contrast to Tom Riddle because Tom Riddle is about to tell a falsehood about his own endeavors in a way that comes across so much more reasonable.
Yeah.
But like I think this is like where like Tom Riddle's charm is effective, where Gilderoy Lockhart's, you just see it and you're like, well, that's total BS. Like it's just
right.
But like, so he's going through.
You're right. That is a very good call. Where it's just like, why is Tom Riddle so believable while Lockhart is not?
I don't know, because like I think you could possibly even read it in a different tone of voice and get like Lockhart's essence from his recapping of the Chamber of Secrets. Like, of course I know of the Chamber of Secrets. In my day, they told us it was a lesson that it did not exist, but this was a lie.
Yeah.
Like
in my fifth year, the chamber was open and the monster attacked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I caught the person who opened the chamber and he was expelled. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Like, I mean, it's like, it's not terribly dissimilar from like what we've been hearing from Lockhart.
You're right.
But he's also lying.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So anyway, because he's basically telling Harry straight up, like, they gave me a shiny trophy for my trouble, but warned me to keep my mouth shut. But like in reality, he's like, he has manipulated this whole situation so well that like he has been able to blame somebody and maintain the knowledge that the monster is safe, but is delivering it in such a way that makes it seem like, no, the authorities told me to cover it up.
Yeah.
But he's the one who covered it up.
Right, like he's the one who covers it up and then gets the authorities to ask him to cover it up, which is like great for him because none of it's true.
Right.
Yeah, but
yes.
then there's this line. This is the line I didn't realize was in here was, Professor Dippet, ashamed that such a thing had happened at Hogwarts, forbade me to tell the truth. A story was given out that the girl had died in a freak accident. So it's like no one even realized the chamber was open last time. Like most people don't realize Myrtle was killed by the Chamber of Secrets. They think she was killed by something else, which is like, which is like, that sucks for Myrtle.
I know, and maybe this is like why my like misremembering is so bad with this particular like segment of the story, because a lot of times I'm like, why would anybody think that Slytherin's monster was Aragog? Like, it's like it's a giant spider that has nothing to do with Slytherin. Like that seems like such a weird choice, but it's like because nobody ever thought it was the Chamber of Secrets.
Right.
They're like the writing wasn't on the wall like it was this go round.
Right.
But then moving on from that, the other thing I think is wild is that Tom Riddle's diary has got some serious magic packed into it, because I'm pretty sure the pensieve that is in the headmaster's office was found at the location of Hogwarts.
Yeah, I believe the way the story goes, and you might have to fact check this, is that Rowena Ravenclaw has a dream about a hog on a mountain, and then they go to that mountain and dig where the hog was and find the pensieve, and that's where they build the castle.
Yes. We of course all know that what actually happened was they attacked a giant
dragon.
At the scene.
Hogwarts is a dragon.com.
And transfigured it into a castle, and that's the reason that like the staircases move. It's just like the organs of the dragon, just continue. Exactly. Yeah.
But he's basically like that he's contained all of his memories in the diary means he's like sort of made his own pensieve in a way.
I mean, in the way that Harry interacts inside of the diary is not at all different from his interactions inside of the pensieve.
I mean, he describes it when he's in the pensieve. He says he compares it to this exact experience.
So there you go. Yeah. So it's like whatever magic Tom Riddle was able to inject into this device, it's pretty impactful. It's pretty big.
But I think so. The fact that they cover it all up is then the explanation for why it doesn't say what T.M. Riddle did on his trophy for special services to the school.
Yes.
Because that's part of the cover up.
Right.
Yep,
there you go. So then Harry basically is able to fall inside of the story. His feet hit solid ground and he stood shaking as the blurred shape around him suddenly came into focus. That's sort of like the description of like what happens when you fall inside of the pensieve. And then we kind of see a scene where I think Harry is really basically supposed to see himself as Tom Riddle.
Yeah, so much. Yeah,
you've got this like jet black hair kid. I mean, he's taller than Harry, but he's also older than Harry. But he's like, he's interacting with the headmaster of the day. And it seems like they're also trying to like figure out what's going on. We learned that Tom Riddle, like Harry, is also an orphan, and like that he basically finds himself feeling most at home while he's at school, and he's requesting the ability to stay for the summer holidays.
Right. He's a half-blood just like Harry.
Yep.
And interestingly, there's no mention in here that he's in Slytherin.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
you're right. Which that is really fascinating.
Yeah.
But basically, I think pretty much what happens is like I think at this point in time, Tom Riddle is just sort of like, I'm just going to keep using the chamber to attack people because like why not? Like I can do it. Like I'm Slytherin's heir. Like
right. As far as he's concerned, it's his job to purge the school of the Muggleborns.
Exactly. But then like the only reason why he's backtracking on it at all and even frames Hagrid at all is because Dippet's basically saying like, well, if we don't find out what's going on, we're gonna have to shut down the school.
I know. There's this line here. It says Riddle was doing some serious thinking, and it's like biting his lip, his forehead furrowed. It's like this is like him just being like he's having this real like Hogwarts is my home dilemma, like himself, which is like really, really interesting.
Yes,
that like
because
like he is as far as he's concerned, he's like living up to his destiny here, but like he's like trying to weigh in this moment whether that's worth closing Hogwarts, and he ultimately decides it's not.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and like this is the thing. We always make the joke about like how Voldemort couldn't even conquer a high school.
Right.
But it's like to him, Hogwarts is not a high school.
Right.
Like, his love for that place is actually like in his own extremely twisted way about as genuine as I think he can love anything.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
So-
I think you're right. But so a page before that, though, we mentioned this earlier. You finally learn the middle name is Marvolo. It says Tom after my father, Marvolo after my grandfather.
There you
so
go.
there you go. There's Tom, 1, 2, 3 different words and a different line. That's probably not intentional or anything between that and the word Marvolo. And it's the only time you'll hear the word Marvolo for like several more books. Well, until the end of the chamber.
Yeah.
But you don't see the words Tom, Marvolo, Riddle written next to each other. Riddle isn't even written like near those two words as it here. So it's like it's very intentionally making sure you don't see all the letters right next to each other so that it is very not obvious. Because if you put the D in, like the VOL in Marvolo is maybe the closest you could get to being like, that sort of looks like Voldemort. But like there's no, if the Riddle was there too, you might be able to connect the D to the Vold, right? Like a little bit. You'd have 4 letters then.
Yes,
And
yeah.
you could maybe get like Voldemort out of it. But
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. Especially because like the name Marvolo is so unusual.
it is. It's
so
like
weird.
Marvolo.
Yeah, it's like that doesn't really track with anything. It's like that could stand out like a sore thumb to anybody who is attempting to uncover whatever this book's twist could be.
Yeah.
The other fun thing about that, I think we just made a video about, is all of the different language translations had to get like a little bit clever with what the various names were so that the anagram can still work. So I think it's in French. His middle name is like Elvis, which I always find to be kind of hilarious.
Tom Elvis Riddle.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yep.
But so anyway, obviously Tom Riddle's reaction to the threat of the school being closed is like, okay, now I need to figure out a way to basically prevent that from happening. And he almost immediately seems to have an ace up his sleeve because
He does.
it seems like this whole thing happens the same night. He leaves Dippett's office. He encounters the auburn-haired Dumbledore in the hallway, which I have to include because that was a question we had in the Jay versus Ben ones, and I did not realize that Dumbledore was once a redhead, and that was just sort of like one of those things that always stuck out to me.
Right. That's part of like the Rombledore theory.
But yes, yeah.
Which is the worst one, so I'm not even going to talk about it. But there is this line there where it says, "Well, hurry off to bed," said Dumbledore, giving Riddle exactly the kind of penetrating stare Harry knew so well, which is just like, that to me is Dumbledore actively reading his mind.
Yes, I
Like,
agree.
right there. He is just like, "Vroom, I got it." So like earlier when he's like, it's not a matter of who, it's how. It's like, yeah, Dumbledore knows it's him. He
Yes.
just can't do anything about it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's I highlighted the exact same sentence because
Yeah.
it was just like, yep. At that point in time,
That's
Dumbledore knows what's going on
Because he's already met him as an orphan, like he's been on to this kid since like minute 1.
Yes. Yep. Dumbledore has always sort of suspected that there was something different about Tom, and he was the
Yeah.
only one who wasn't like lulled in by his charm and everything. So anyway, then as we trudge forward, like we know that Tom basically goes right down to the dungeons beneath the school where he's encountering Hagrid, who is attempting to coax Aragog. I always want to say Aragorn.
I know.
Aragog into a box. And this is like one of those moments as well where like when you're a young kid reading this chapter and you know Hagrid the way you know Hagrid.
Yeah.
And it's like, no,
No.
not Hagrid. But yeah, it seems like it's pretty conniving of Tom Riddle. Like he clearly has something like sorted. Like he knows who he's supposed to go and frame essentially right away. Which honestly, Dippet, it seems like should have probably been like just maybe a teensy bit more like suspicious of like, hey, we're gonna have to close the school unless we can figure this out. Solved it.
Yeah. Like, hey, what do you know? Like an hour later.
Right. The person I told that we might have to close the school happened to be the one who also
Happened to
solved
catch it. And he even asks him, he's like, "Do you know something about it?" He's like, "No. Why?
No.
Huh? No. Why? Hold on, give me an hour."
Yeah. Give me like 40.
Yeah.
tops.
Yeah. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
What is crazy though, and this is something I don't like, maybe it didn't 1,000% put together, but upon the reread here, so yeah, they go down, they corner Hagrid, and let me find the exact line here. It says, let's see, and out it came, something that made Harry let out a long, piercing scream unheard by anyone. A vast, low-slung, hairy body and a tangle of black legs, a gleam of many eyes, and a pair of razor-sharp pincers. Riddle raised his wand again, but he was too late. The thing bowled him over as it scuttled away, tearing up the corridor and out of sight. Riddle scrambled to his feet, looking after it. He raised his wand, but the huge boy leapt on him, seized his wand, and threw him back down, yelling no. Okay, so all in all, he corners him. He blasts Hagrid back. Aragog gets out, bowls Riddle over, and before Tom can go like chase down Aragog.
It's
God, I know. Now
I put it in your brain. I'm sorry.
Before he can go chase down the spider, Hagrid jumps on him and just starts wailing on him. Which, ouch, that hurt.
Yes.
But the point is that Aragog gets away in this scene. Right? And yet Hagrid is expelled, which means Tom has no proof at all that it was Hagrid.
Oh man, yeah, it's really just his
word against Hagrid's, and Tom is so respected and so charismatic that he gets Hagrid expelled and his wand broken. Like he does not have the monster in hand.
No,
all
doesn't.
He has is I saw Hagrid with a giant spider, and that's enough. That is enough. That is so terrible.
It is very frustrating. Yeah, because that's the thing, is that we know Aragog makes it out of the castle into the forest.
Right.
Finds a home, does all the rest, has a family. That's frustrating.
It is
frustrating. But it's also the type of thing like where I feel like Hagrid is so kind. And like Hagrid would know he was guilty of housing an animal he wasn't supposed to have. But like, there's a piece of me that's like, I wonder if Hagrid just had any defense at all. It's just like, I had a spider.
Right. Right. It's like, but I think it speaks probably greater to like the greater like prejudices in the wizarding world.
It definitely does.
That like they all don't like Hagrid because they can tell something's wrong with him.
Yeah.
There's obviously
there's
I say something wrong.
Yeah.
They can tell something's different about him. They don't know what it is, but they don't like it.
Exactly.
They suspect what it is, and they really don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously, if you know Hagrid, there's nothing wrong with him at all.
Yeah. No. Of course. Yeah. So anyway, but that basically rounds us off to the end of the chapter. Harry like wakes up in his bed. He's sweating and shaking. Ron looks over to him and he says, "What's up?" And Harry ends the chapter with the sentence, "It was Hagrid, Ron. Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago." So imagine little young us sitting on the end of our bed, listening to our dad read us this story and knowing it's going to be a week before we get any more information.
I know.
Because, oh my gosh. It's like, it's impossible to get back into that mindset because it's just like, I can't. It's like, that meant that little me had to spend a whole week thinking Hagrid was guilty.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You're like, and it seems pretty. That's the thing is that like Tom Riddle sells you the reader.
I know.
Huh.
And Harry.
The
worst. Anyway, but that closes out chapter 13.
It does.
Fitting number for the chapter, being as dark
Truly.
as it is. But looking forward ahead to chapter 14, Cornelius Fudge.
Cornelius Fudge.
Yeah, he's
the
also
minister. He's also the worst.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Made a whole video about him.
So much like there's so much like corruption in the wizarding world.
There is
all the time.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Rampant racism, slavery. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, not good.
Jay, before we close out for the day, do you have a review for us?
I sure do, Ben. It comes from Shiny Psychic 190.
Great name.
Fantastic. I love Harry Potter, and the podcast is the best deep breakdown any Potterhead could possibly love. I always look forward to when the next episode comes out, and this is my favorite podcast right now. But I knew right away when this was announced it was the podcast for me. Question. In Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry said that he would probably go mad if he sees himself bursting into Hagrid's cabin. I've always wondered, is this true? Could Harry have burst in and explained everything? And furthermore, what if somebody used Polyjuice to look like you and then burst into the room? I'd love to hear you guys' opinions on this.
This is like a really interesting one because I think the Polyjuice question is a good question. Like, like if somebody were to like if Crabbe and Goyle had somehow like woken up in the broom cupboard, found their way to the Slytherin common room, walked in and saw themselves sitting there talking to Malfoy, like you would expect that they would be like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
But not that they would go mad. And then on that same note, like I think Hermione is the one who's like warning Harry of this particular situation. The only credence I think it offers to the argument is like Hermione, for example, if she ran into a version of herself and she spent the whole last year using a time turner, she like even a version of her that's not expecting to see herself would probably be like, I understand why I'm seeing myself. I don't know why that me is appearing to me now.
Yeah.
You know, but like at the very least, it's like there are two of me right now. Like,
right.
You know,
like that's the thing. Like, so there's no doubt, like if Harry bursts into Hagrid's hut in Prisoner here and like sees himself, like past him is going to be really like, what's going on? But I don't think he's going to go mad, but like, because he's going to be completely out of the loop because that version of him has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if like, let's say going around the school, Hermione like, glimpses herself, you know, like gives herself a little wink one day, like future her sees past her and it's just like, hey, you know, it's like that, like past Hermione isn't going to lose her mind at all because she's been doing this all years and knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she might be surprised that like she crossed paths with herself.
Right.
But like she would know like, that was me. I know what's happening.
Right.
You know, like it's not going to be that surprising to her.
Yes. Yeah. I think the explanation is like one of those where it's like, it's plausible enough to where you're like, man, it would be really weird if I ran into another version of myself just going on the street. Like that would screw with you in a pretty big way.
Right.
And so to me, I think that this is like one of those like plot convenience answers a little bit where it's like the easiest thing would be to just go and talk to the other people and like let them know what's up. But I think possibly the other potential issue is that like, especially from a writing perspective, what happens in Harry Potter when it comes to time travel has always happened the whole time.
Yeah.
So you would never have the course of events that led to the evening that you had if you interjected. So like if Harry had burst in and told them like, hey, no, don't go into the Whomping Willow, like blah, 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 like they would obviously not go into the Whomping Willow because then they would be completely informed as to everything that's going to happen. And that would completely screw with like the current time.
But like future him could never come back and warn him not to have done that.
Yes,
because
exactly.
future him wouldn't have done it either because when future him was in the past, future him would have showed up and told him the same thing.
Exactly. So I think the real issue is that like because timelines are absolute in the world of Harry Potter and time travel, it's like there is no like maybe that's where it can make you go crazy is if you broke the laws of time. It's like that might be like what might ultimately make you go mad.
Right.
Is that it's like if like no matter what, every single time, Harry and Hermione are always there. They're always hiding in the woods behind the pumpkin patch or whatever. Like they always throw the stone that hits Harry in the back of the head. Like these are all things that happen the first time, they happen the second time, they will happen in perpetuity all the time and for always until like, you know, like because they can't not.
Right.
And so that would be the thing. Like if for some reason he did go and burst in, it's like he didn't experience that the first time and he had to experience that the first time. So it's like it makes time so wimbly wombly.
It does. And it's like then there is I mean the example at the end of Prisoner where like Harry does see himself but like that thinks it's his dad is that's a very I think that's a really clever one.
It is
too,
yes, it is very clever because like that's like Harry knowing he has the power of what he thinks his father would be able to do, and it's like his own belief that it was his dad and his knowledge that he did in the past that allows him to do it in the future.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like this. Like, does that make sense? It's like no.
It's like that's unbelievable. Bootstrap paradox. Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, something a little bit like that. But it's like that's a very fun one. So I don't think it would actually make you go mad, especially if you were. Like if you'd been using time magic a lot, like you might almost expect something like this to happen eventually.
That's what I think too, especially like
Yeah.
with Hermione just like running to him from the hallways, or if she's like using the same broom cupboard to like always like step into to like do the time turner, so that like
Right.
like they can she can go through both like it seems like she would be like landing in approximately the same locations a bunch.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's as much of a problem as as it is presented to be.
Yeah, but really what it comes down to is that they couldn't or wouldn't ever interject because they didn't know beforehand that they were going to need to use the time turner after the fact, and therefore like maybe that could provide an opportunity for you to do that. Like that's always one of those things where like if you're sitting in your chair and you're like, okay, if time travel exists, future me, come back to me right now in the next 3, 2, 1, and you open your eyes and you look up, and it's like, if time travel existed and you remembered this moment happening, then future you, to prove to current you, could travel back to this moment to know that it was going to happen right now.
Right.
Like that's like the way that we can all test time travel.
Right.
It's like if it existed, future us would rely, would commit to whatever.
Unless future you knows that you can't do that.
Unless future you knows that.
Yeah.
And that it would
break the rules.
It would break the rules.
Right.
It would distort the entire timeline reality. So time travel, always extremely weird. It's always one of those things, and I think everyone who ever introduces it to the story knows the dangers of doing it, because it can overpower everything so quickly.
It's like one of those things, like everyone seems to find it like really confusing, but everyone also seems to like sort of love it because everyone keeps using it.
I know, yeah. It's like whenever it's like, oh, it's time travel. Although that was my number one rule going into Avengers.
Endgame.
Yes, Avengers Endgame. I was like, not time travel. I'm okay. I want any explanation that's not time travel. And then I struggled watching the whole theater experience because I was like, oh, it's time travel.
It's time travel.
It's like, I did not want it to be time
But
travel.
it was like, and then it's time travel. You're like, oh, we're back in the first movie. Oh, they did the thing. Oh, now they know this. Oh, it's kind of cool. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it ended up working out in some ways. Anyway, there you go.
Tony's talking to his dad.
That's kind of special.
Yeah.
That's kind of special. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Until next time.
Tune in next time to Chapter 14, Cornelius Fudge, Through the Griffin Door. Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Griffin Door, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands, dust off your broomsticks, and join us as we unlock the treasures behind Chamber of Secrets, Chapter 14, Cornelius Fudge, the worst.
The worst. The worst. Well, actually, I don't even know if in this chapter he is the worst, but I also don't think he deserves to have this chapter named after him.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's necessarily named after him. He's not like book 5, the worst, in the way that he will eventually become, but there's like shades of it.
There's shades of it for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it's like there's probably like commentary to be made about the level of reaction the opening of the Chamber of Secrets inside of this chapter that I think is disproportionate based on everything else that has happened the rest of the year.
Yes.
It's very much like, it's kind of like, there are people actively being attacked in the school. There is unknown like hate text being painted on the walls, presumably in blood. And basically the school is just sort of like, yeah,
Well, it's happening.
Yeah.
But you know what? These things happen, right? It's like you almost have to get the feeling that like petrification is like not like in the wizarding world. It's just sort of like someone got petrified. God, that's a bummer. But like, yeah, I mean, obviously we'll just sort of undo it.
Yeah, right,
kind of
right,
thing.
yeah.
Like it must not be registering. I guess people don't even know though that well. Like they're sort of hushing it up. But the other thing is that apparently it's happened before. And it's like, this is the, yeah, you're right. It's like the timing of everything is what seems so weird because like, they're like, oh, it's been 4 attacks, got to be seen to be doing something. And it's like, why is 4 the number?
Right.
Like if you think it's the Chamber of Secrets and this exact pattern happened before and you are like 1,000% sure you caught the right person last time and that person still works at the school, like immediately you should have gotten Hagrid immediately.
That's the thing, yes. Yeah. And so I think what I find interesting about this chapter, and we can talk about it now or talk about it then, but like, the idea here is that the chapter is titled Cornelius Fudge because we're being introduced to the Minister for Magic for the first time, where he's showing up basically to prove to the wizarding populace that he is on top of the situation, that like action is happening, it's taking place, like not to worry. And it's like on that level, I do feel like from like a politician's standpoint, there is like the need in instances like this where it's like, you need to show that there is progress, because otherwise people are going to be like, y'all, what are we doing about the problem? And it's like, oh, we're currently doing nothing. So it's like in general, people want to see there being progress to be made. And it's like, the question is, are the attacks inside of this chapter just the first time that the greater wizarding populace is being made privy to the situation at all?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really the phrasing of his sentence, got to be seen to be doing something.
Right, yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right.
It's like
yeah.
the only reason I'm doing it is so that I'll be perceived as handling the problem. He's not even like of the mindset like we need to handle this problem, you know?
Right.
It's not like we've got to do something, because it's like you are doing something. You are doing exactly what you should be doing, presumably.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like it's not like got to be seen to be. I'm only arresting Hagrid so that I will be seen as doing something. I'm not arresting Hagrid because I think he did it, which I still do think, which is the weird thing.
Well, that's the question. So it's like in my mind, I almost have to imagine, because I know that going into Order of the Phoenix, it's like we'll learn more about like Fudge's relationship with Dumbledore and sort of like, I think maybe his possible, imposter syndrome relative to Dumbledore's brilliance, where it seems like for most of his time in office, he's usually written to Dumbledore to get advice from Dumbledore.
Yeah.
In terms of like, how should we be going about things? And like, while Dumbledore doesn't want to accept the position himself, he's like happy to like consult in the comings and goings. And so inside of this chapter, to me, it definitely reads as though Fudge like does have a deep respect for Dumbledore. Like,
yeah.
Even like when Lucius Malfoy shows up, it doesn't really come across to me like Fudge is on Lucius's side.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he definitely is sort of like, hold on. I'm doing this for some political points, but if you want to act, I think we definitely should not be removing Dumbledore. We all agree on that, right?
Yeah. It seems like that's basically the spot that he's in. And so in my mind, I mean, again, assuming Fudge is always just mostly looking out more for himself than anything else, there's a piece of me that wonders like whether or not like he knows that by coming here under these circumstances and enacting the plan of the governors of the school, which, this book is really the only book I think we ever, maybe in Prisoner, do we hear a little bit more about the governors? It doesn't matter. They make it seem like the governors are going to be like a big deal.
Yeah, like they're going to constantly be a thorn in your side.
Right. Like, or that we should know any of them at all other than Lucius Malfoy.
Right, yeah. Who are the other 11 governors?
Right, yeah. We never have any idea.
We don't know. Seems like they be coming to like the Quidditch matches and stuff.
It definitely seems like, these are patrons of the school who are like, like stepping into a board of directors position, probably due to their prominent roles in other aspects of wizarding society.
Or else because their own children are at the school.
Or that.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But so anyway, I think, like the tight space that I'm imagining Fudge being caught between here is basically like being called to perform a particular action. Because to your credit, it's sort of, or to your point, rather, it's like, why didn't they do this from the start? And in my mind, Fudge probably from the start like wasn't feeling enough pressure from the rest of the world and was like, I don't really want to like rock the boat in my relationship with Dumbledore. So like I'm gonna not do that, and then it's sort of like, okay, well now my hand is forced and like the optics are getting really bad. So it's kind of like a Peter Pettigrew kind of situation.
I mean, I think it is Dumbledore who says it in maybe it's in the fourth movie or something, or maybe it's in one of the books, but it's something along the lines of like Fudge is doing like what is easy, not what is right, sort of thing.
Sure.
And it's sort of like that's sort of been the case the whole time, because it's like you're at like what's easy is not rocking the boat with his relationship with Dumbledore, despite students being attacked and the suspect of the last occurrence of this 50 years ago still being present at the school.
Right.
It's like Dumbledore couldn't help but notice. I got a report about students being petrified. This happened again.
Right.
50 years ago. Happening now. Got to do something. Sorry about that. Like,
right.
That's what. Like, that's the right thing to do immediately.
Right.
As opposed to the easy thing of just like, well, Dumbledore's got it. If he says it's not a problem, it's not a problem.
Right.
Which like, and it's like this is such a weird thing to argue because like, of course they're all wrong about Hagrid.
Yes, yes.
But like, as
and
far
we
as
know they're wrong.
we know they're wrong, but they don't know they're wrong, and they think they're right. And if they think they're right, and they aren't, I mean, again, this is all based on just Tom Riddle's word 50 years ago. But as far as they're concerned, they are right. They know it's Hagrid, and so that they're not acting on it is bananas.
I know, that's the thing. That's like what's so weird about it, though, is that it's almost like Fudge's inaction is almost more like his proper action is probably something that we, the readers, would be more upset with. Like if they had come and hauled Hagrid off from the very beginning, we'd be like, no, what the heck? Like that's even more time he unnecessarily had to spend in Azkaban. Like it obviously wasn't him, but it's like, again, it's like, it's not obviously not Hagrid, and probably a lot of this stuff should have happened way sooner.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to be like arguing against Hagrid, against Dumbledore, in favor of like the Ministry action.
Right.
Because we the readers know that the Ministry tends to not necessarily.
We have all the information.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's but you're right. Yeah. So it's like if you change your position inside of the story a little bit, it's sort of like maybe this is the correct course.
There's a lot of weird decisions in this chapter.
Yes.
Well, let's just touch on the chapter art real quick. I felt like this one was a little more meh than maybe some of the others. It's basically just the list that Lucius Malfoy brings to cart Dumbledore away, I think.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it looks more like it could be the chapter art for like Dumbledore's army.
Yeah, it does
You
look
know,
more like that. Like at the top of the list is just the big, very like informally written Roman numeral 12.
Yeah.
Which I assume stands for the 12 governors.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
That stands to reason. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I can follow that logic. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's a very like Declaration of Independence looking, long, lengthy, ancient scroll type thing. But yeah, I mean, really all of that, I mean, it's the name of the chapter, but really most of this happens sort of like at the very tail end.
Yeah, just sort of right at the end there.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess you want to dive in and we'll just kind of like work our way through it.
Yeah, we'll work our way through. I'm sure we'll bring up a lot of the same points as we go, but let's see. So we start out, and as a reminder, at the end of the last chapter, Harry flies back out of the diary and realizes that, oh my gosh, it was Hagrid who opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago.
Yes.
And so now they're sort of like, they've always known Hagrid's had a liking for large
and monstrous creatures.
And then the first thing I highlighted here was just like, Harry was sure that Hagrid would have gone to any lengths to have glimpsed it if he thought there was a chamber, or if he thought there was a monster like lurking around the castle, which is an interesting like thought, because like it's actually not even true, because like the last time the chamber was opened, like Hagrid wasn't looking for the monster.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. So and I think like this whole book really is all about sort of like, it's a big whodunit, I think,
Yeah.
is like what's really kind of going on. And I think that this chapter takes that like yet to another level. But I mean, we've talked a lot about like Percy being an obvious red herring. There's sort of like the little mentions of Ginny being here, there, and everywhere. There's like all of like Draco's, slurs and stuff like that sort of like puts him as like an obvious, center target. There's Dobby at the very beginning, who is coming from someone somewhere, which
Right.
I mean probably wouldn't be that hard to figure out that it could be the Malfoys, just if you're assuming it's going to be connected to someone we know.
I mean, they guess it pretty immediately.
Right. And then like, so I don't know if like every good whodunit you've ever watched, the way that they usually unfold or read as you're going through the story is like, you basically think like, well, it can't be them. And then someone at some point will like build the case against them, and all of a sudden it starts to look really suspicious. And you're
right.
like, there kind
Maybe
of
it is them.
There kind of is something there. Like he did make that comment, and and then so I think this chapter is basically like, you would have left on the cliffhanger at last chapter being like, Hagrid, what? No, like the gentlest, kindest, friendliest, just looking out for everybody, just working hard, living in his humble existence, like Hagrid. It's like, how could it be?
How could it be?
And I think that basically to answer that question, it's like, well, lest we forget that he does have a giant 3-headed dog that's named Fluffy that was being used basically, in a parameter where Dumbledore himself like declares, do not go to the 3rd floor corridor unless you wish to suffer a most painful death.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so Fluffy, a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
Then, he's trading valuable Hogwarts information for Norbert and the dragon egg.
Right.
He's got Fang, who, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Fang seems pretty okay.
Right, yeah.
But otherwise, he's always sort of like had an affinity for large creatures and such. So like, I suppose maybe like, even if what's happening with Hagrid, or even if what you're supposed to be believing about Hagrid as like a potential target is something along the lines of like, well, maybe he wasn't malicious in his intent.
Right.
But maybe his curiosity got the best of him.
Right. And then it got out of control.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And that's like a grand example of like, okay, like there's intent versus impact. It's like if you were to assess the two there, like if Hagrid was the one who had opened the Chamber of Secrets. His intention was not to rid the school of
Muggleborns. It's just to
Muggleborns.
see the monster.
It's raw curiosity.
Yeah.
So intentions are good, impact is bad.
Right.
Myrtle dies. On the flip side, then you've got someone like Tom Riddle who like wants to open the chamber to rid the school of
Muggleborns.
Yeah. His like, his intentions are bad and the impact is bad.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's yeah. I don't know. So I think basically it doesn't even seem, the chapter doesn't even get all the way through where you're suspecting Hagrid of being the potential villain, but I suppose there are a couple of other instances that maybe like could quietly still not exclude him as we go forward, because one of the other big things that we have happening inside of this chapter is Harry's room is being like ransacked.
Yeah, that is the other big thing that's going to happen in a couple of pages.
Yes.
Here. Let's see. I guess we'll get to that.
Okay.
I guess the other issue with Hagrid is that, like, even if he did it 50 years ago and he didn't mean to do it, you can almost rule him out because it's like, but why would he have opened it again? Like, what would make him reopen it then?
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. I mean, and that's like one of those where, it's like, is it a slow game? I mean, like Snape is actively quietly keeping a foot in two camps for most of our saga and everything. It's like,
right.
Is there a world where it's like, okay, I was going to do it to Harry on his first year, but then, it's like any good villain, all you have to do is just give them the monologue and explain their story, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man.
Like if
wild.
Hagrid was like, I was going to befriend you or whatever.
Yeah, it's like I had won Dumbledore's trust, and I knew I just had to bide my time.
Right.
I went very leprechaun.
Yeah, you did a little bit there.
Yeah, that's my bad. I normally go pirate whenever I try to do Hagrid. But yeah, I mean, you could see that being like, you entered your first year, and you trusted me, and I kept guiding you towards the danger. Right. I mean, it's like, after all, when you look at like Philosopher's Stone, like throughout the whole saga, like Hagrid is the one who keeps slipping information. It's like he's got like a lot of blood on his hands. So
right.
to
Yeah,
speak,
for
or
sure. Yeah,
whatever.
like, and then he has them deal with Norbert instead of him doing it himself. And
right.
Yeah,
and it is
that.
a beast. That's
right.
The castle.
Yeah. Anyway, so we get to the next page here. Hermione says Riddle might have got the wrong person, which is a very clever way to phrase this sentence, I think, because it makes you like, you agree with Hermione, and it's even true that Riddle got the wrong person because of course Riddle is the one doing it.
Right.
But it's like that like throws like blame away from Riddle. It's like Riddle might have got the wrong person. It's like, yes, you want to believe Hermione, like that's true. He might have gotten the wrong person. It's like, but like because she phrases it like that, you don't think that it is Riddle.
I know.
You still like, it's just that he made a mistake, not that Riddle did it.
yes, exactly. And I think that does like sort of continue a little bit. She does have like one of those Ron moments from last week where it says maybe it was some other monster that was attacking people, and it's like, yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
Dead ringer. That is exactly correct.
Yeah, and then I love how Ron responds, says, how many monsters do you think this place could hold? I'm like, well, so far, Fluffy, Norbert, 2 trolls, the giant squid, Aragog, so a bunch.
Technically more than you would expect. It's a pretty big castle. It's a pretty big castle. Then we go back to sort of pointing the gun potentially at Percy again.
Yep.
Where Ron makes the comparison, like Riddle does sound like Percy. And this is kind of interesting to me because I think to your point about Hermione, where it's like she's saying something where it's like, okay, let's take the blame off of Hagrid. Riddle probably still a good guy. The other thing that's happening with Riddle that I think is interesting inside of all this is that like Harry keeps relating to Riddle.
Yeah.
So like he's this like dark-haired orphan boy who's kind of like sees Hogwarts as his home.
Yep.
He's been celebrated as like a little bit of a hero, so it's like, they're kind of one for one in a lot of different ways. But then the comparison of Riddle to Percy, it's sort of like, okay, now we're thinking like Riddle's kind of like Percy, and Percy has also been someone who's been at the center of our investigation for most of the book.
Right.
If you're just going on your first pass and don't know anything else, you certainly would have to be suspecting Percy at least a little bit.
Right. But then the way this is, Riddle does sound like Percy. So then it's like, but if you think it's Percy, then does that mean you should think it's Riddle?
That's a good point.
Right, yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But then Ron's question is, Riddle does sound like Percy. Who asked him to squeal on Hagrid anyway? Like, as if Ron's opinion is like, so a few people got attacked. Like, don't squeal at it. No one's dead. Right? Like, as if you haven't been trying to figure out this exact mystery all year.
Right.
And then Hermione's, of course, like, but someone died, Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, of course, they did this last chapter where they were like, oh, yeah, a girl died. When, like, Dippett's talking to Riddle and is like, a girl died. And it's like, why wouldn't you just say Myrtle died?
Yes.
You know,
yeah,
you're doing
right,
the thing where you're vague on purpose. You could have said whose name it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
No, I feel like the book does the story at large so far seems to do this all the time, where there's the hilariously bad timing of anybody showing up every time Harry's in like a compromised situation.
Yeah.
I think in this book there's or in this chapter there's an instance like where it's like, should we go and talk to an adult? And it's like, no, we should definitely not go and talk to an adult.
Oh, I mean, there is. I mean, I think I highlighted, at least laid it on the page when Hermione's like, do you think we should go ask Hagrid about it all?
Yes,
Just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yes, please go do that.
Right,
It's like,
right.
and if you in event, because of course eventually they do, but if they'd done it then he could have told them everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you're dead right. And I mean, this is like, I think what must have been like the challenge in writing is just constantly needing to like create this maze for the characters to like walk through, to where it's like, should we do this? It's like, no, we ruled that out for good reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
It's
4 pages later, we should definitely go talk to Hagrid.
Do that. Oh, it's
Yeah.
too late now. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, that's so often the case. It's like, I wonder how often you're doing this, like in real life too, where it's just like, well, I know I should do that, but it might like bother that person, so I just won't.
So I just won't.
So I just won't. It's like if someone's reading your book, they're like, why? Just go talk to them.
No, I get you. I get you. I literally had this happen yesterday because I've
Yeah.
been trying to keep seahorses for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I was communicating with the breeders of the seahorses.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I'm using this like super high quality like frozen shrimp food.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh no, that's way too big. You should be using a smaller version. And it's like one of these things where like one of the first things I ever learned was this particular shrimp I always use is like the best shrimp for the case.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the most nutritious that there is. And then it was like, yeah, but it's too big for seahorses' small little snoots. And I was like, I never even considered using a different food other than the food that's obviously the best food. So this just happened to me this week. And
Wow.
so as you were describing that, I was like, I have to give this example.
This is it. There
Especially
it is.
since it's seahorses, which
Yeah.
are so quirky and weird.
Ben also manages an aquarium company. in
Oh
case
yeah,
you
for
didn't know.
context. Yeah.
If you're-
It's like, why is
Like,
Ben
wait,
talking
what?
about seahorses? Yeah, there's the context. Yep, aquarium company.
So there's that. Let's see. So there's it's been like 4 months. Is that what it says since the last attack? I think.
Yes, 4 months.
Right.
Yes, since
And
Justin and Nearly had the snake. Yeah.
Everyone seems. It's like all of a sudden everyone seems to be like, I guess it's fine. It's over. Who even cares anymore? Because like Ernie Macmillan asked Harry quite politely to pass a bucket of leaping toadstools in herbology one day, and just like this to me doesn't add up at all, because it's like what like even if Ernie has decided, you know what? Harry seems to have given it up. 4 months later, he hasn't done anything. What a laugh, am I right?
I know.
Why? Like as far as we know, he still thinks Harry did it, but I guess he's just like, well, if he quit, who even cares?
Who can stay mad after 4 months?
Who can stay mad? He petrified my friend. Whatever.
No, I think this is totally. I kind of agree with your early assessment that like maybe petrification is like in the wizarding world not as dire as we would interpret or read it as. It's like it's massively inconvenient. But on the other note, it is the second year herbology class that raises mandrakes.
Yeah.
You know, so it's sort of like, yeah, it's like, you know, every year we got to be doing this. Petrification's going to be happening. We raise the mandrakes. We got all of our solutions, you know. It's like sometimes it's going to happen. It's wizard school. You know, like I don't know if that could possibly be like in the back of the minds of people. It's like, it's inconvenient that it happened.
Right. And like, it is bad that we don't know how it happened, and it's happened like a bunch, but like, we'll fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a solve, not
Right.
a big deal. Yeah, so it's like, as long as it doesn't keep happening, then we're all good.
Right.
Yeah, but honestly, credit to, well, I'll get there in a minute. So we'll continue. Yeah.
All right. The next page is basically just a whole bunch of Prisoner of Azkaban set up.
Okay.
as the second years all have to choose their new subjects, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. Ron surprises me and says, like, we keep all our old subjects, or else I had to ditch defense against the dark arts, which I guess he's assuming it'll just be Lockhart again the next year. The pattern hasn't really revealed itself to Ron yet.
Right. Yes.
But
yeah. Which, based on the fact that, like he said, Brothers going there for years and nobody's ever had the same DADA professor for 2 years straight, it seems like it should be pretty evident.
It should be, yeah.
But it is crazy to me. I highlighted that exact same line because I was like, it's so crazy for me to think that any of the Golden Trio would be like, yeah, defense against the dark arts, who needs it? It's
right.
Like, that ends up being like all of their speciality.
Yeah, right.
It's
That's
like,
the big one.
That is the big one. That's like the most important class.
Yeah.
That they end up taking. So, and Hermione gets that. She says, no, but that's very important. And then it's kind of interesting just to sort of see like the different ways in like which everybody is attempting to figure out like what to take. We get kind of mention of, I think, arithmancy and ancient runes.
Yep. We get mention of divination by Percy, surprisingly.
Yes.
When he says, it depends where you want to go. It's never too early to start thinking about the future. So I'd recommend divination, which is just like, Percy is pro divination. I mean, he gets an OWL in it, so I guess he must either be successful or at least understand how to take the tests or whatever.
Yeah, no, I know. That's like, I mean, that's the thing is that like Trelawney is not a very good teacher. I don't think. I mean, I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
Like the OWLs seem more like a standardized test that maybe aren't devised by the professors themselves.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is not, I mean, I'm sure anybody, could relate to a scenario where you had a not so good teacher for a course, but you like, even if you didn't learn from them, maybe you still like self-taught yourself.
Yeah, like from the book
or whatever. So it's like, my chemistry teacher wasn't very good, but I still was able to eventually understand, the basic fundamentals of high school chemistry.
Yeah. I mean, even like Lavender and Parvati, like, get to the point where they're like, oh, the stars are like this, that means that, and Ferenz is like, that's complete bananas. But but it's the sort of thing that they seem confident in saying because like they've read it in the textbooks, or so. I'm not sure if you're OWL is like, read these tea leaves, and Percy looks at it and it's like, yeah, that looks like a hat, that means this, I memorized it out of a book.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, that's probably good enough for the test.
Right. Right.
Or the way he phrases the sentence is that it's like he's taking divination as a way to literally glimpse into his own future.
Well, I mean, if there's anybody who I think has kind of got like the vanity maybe, like attached to their trajectories, I could see Percy holding on to some of that and hoping to catch a glimpse of his future glory or position as Minister for Magic or something.
Yeah, but I think the other way, the main thing, this like the way in which they're all choosing different classes and stuff is just supposed to introduce you to all of what the new classes will be, because they mention ancient runes and arithmancy and divination and care of magical creatures and maybe even Muggle studies.
Right.
So
right,
I think that's all of them. So it's like it's a very concise way to be like, yes, here's what we can look forward to in book 3.
I know, yeah. So that's kind of fun. It's always nice to see the setup, the groundwork.
Yeah.
It also, I was gonna say as we entered this week's chapter. So our last 2 chapters have been such heavy hitters, and I was like, I could see this one being like a little bit more tame because literally. Like you've got the title being Cornelius Fudge, who barely shows up in the chapter at all. The image is the list, which is just not even that important of an artifact to the overall story. And we use an entire page just talking about what classes they're going to take next year,
right?
With no really significant Chamber of Secrets plot points being discussed at all.
Yeah, not really until I suppose we get to our next page here. The next thing that happens is Harry returns to the Gryffindor common room and discovers that someone has just gone through all of his stuff and clearly been looking for something. But and of course we know that this is Ginny looking for Riddle's diary, which she finds.
Yes.
But what is crazy to me about this is that we also are told that the Gryffindors have been the second years have been given something new to think about over the Easter holidays, which is when they're looking at all of the class schedules for next year and whatever.
Right.
And when Ginny initially realized that Harry had the diary was way back on Valentine's Day. So it has taken her a good 6 weeks to suddenly decide, I got to do something about this.
Time to act.
Time to act. And it's like, what? Why doesn't this happen on February 15th?
Right.
This should happen. They're because Ginny, what the reason she does this is because she's afraid Harry is going to figure out how the diary works and figure out she's the one doing it.
Right.
Or that she's been the one that's responsible. And it's like, what? Like, if that's your fear, that is like happening tomorrow, not a minimum of 6 weeks later.
Yes.
know?
This is one of those things where I think like time is always very wimbly wombly when it comes to all of these books. Like it's unbelievable how any page you read, any interaction that Harry has in class, something eventful is always happening, but it means prior to, like really the distance between Valentine's Day and where we're at right now, so little must be going. Like Harry must just be actually having like regular
classes,
days of school. Like they're not making any progress. They're not like really discussing any more about the Chamber of Secrets. There's no other attacks. Like it's just been like kind of like a tame stretch of time.
Yeah. I mean, it's been but a big stretch of time for Ginny to suddenly just be like, welp. That's it. Enough's enough. I'm getting up there.
I'm
doing it.
Maybe she had to devise a way to do it, because we do know that when the boys try to go up to the girls' dormitories, like the stairs, like flatten out into a slide, and like a caterwauling charm, goes off. Yeah. So it's like maybe it's like, okay, you got to find like a strategic way to get up there, or like string a rope up to the top or something.
No, but it's not. The girls can go to the boys' dormitory. It's just the other way around, because Hermione comes up to the boys.
You're right. Yeah. So that's I was trying to lend some credence to a scenario that it takes longer than you'd expect in order to get up there, but can't even do that.
Can't even do that. Ginny just suddenly, I guess she just finally freaks out enough to go do it, because she breaks into the boys' dormitory room and steals the diary.
Yes. So this is another one of those like kind of in the vein of like the whodunit. So like throughout the story, you're kind of being given glimpses. You as a reader can be hypothesizing. You can be focusing in on the various like red herrings and trying to determine whether or not there's like enough meat on those bones to like point an accusation at somebody. To me, what's really big about the end of this scene right here is the sentence that says, "But only a Gryffindor could have stolen. Nobody else knows our password."
Yeah. To which I wrote, well, you guys personally broke into the Slytherin common room earlier this year.
Oh, well, there's that. There's that, yes. But like, like Harry's reaction saying, "Exactly," said Harry, to me is sort of like, okay, now if you're the reader, it's like, it's a Gryffindor.
Right.
Like it almost has to be
a
Gryffindor, which even that, it's like, you're like, no, Gryffindors are the good guys.
Right. How could it be?
They can't be the ones that like, attacking the school. That seems so unlikely. That means it's someone in our camp. So it's like, at that point in time, it's like, okay, could it be Percy?
Right.
It's like,
this is when you're really supposed to narrow in. Like it almost has to be. Who else could it be?
It almost has to be. But then the next thing that happens in the chapter is we hard cut to Quidditch.
Yeah.
They wake up to a brilliant sunshine, a light, refreshing breeze.
They're like, it has to be a Gryffindor. Anyway, Quidditch.
It's like, wait, what? No, wait, what? What happened next?
Yeah.
Who did they think did it?
Yeah, like, did you guys just like circle around the common room, get some alibis or anything, or?
Exactly. Yeah, because it seems like anybody in Gryffindor common room would be like, wait, somebody ransacked your room? Like, that's important for all of us to know, because we all live here.
Right, exactly.
It's like everybody's going to want to know what's up. But no, we hard cut over to Quidditch, which I also think is kind of interesting, because, it's like whatever, Oliver's super excited. They're eating their breakfast. They're going out to the Quidditch pitch. In the process of going out to the Quidditch pitch, I believe, Harry hears the "kill this time, let me rip, tear," whatever. And that
such false promises, Basilisk.
I know, seriously.
Rip someone to shreds, why don't you? I dare you. I dare you.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
You're all eyes. We know
all talk.
We know it.
All hiss and no bite.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So anyway, Harry hears it. He lets Ron and Hermione know. Hermione immediately has a brain blast and says, "Harry, I think I've just understood something. I've got to go to the library."
Yes.
And then she runs away. And in doing so, basically now they go on down to the Quidditch pitch, where everybody's getting all lined up. And out of nowhere, Professor McGonagall comes charging onto the field carrying an enormous purple megaphone.
Nice.
Which is like one of those scenes where I'm like, if they did this in the movies, I probably would have critiqued it, and then somebody would have been like, no, that's canon, actually.
Yeah.
Giant purple microphone. There. Yes, indeed. Megaphone rather, not microphone. But anyway, so this situation I think is kind of interesting because it's like, okay, we've kind of narrowed in on the possibility that it almost certainly needs to be a Gryffindor, but then everybody's at the Quidditch pitch for the game. You know, like the whole school's out there. So it's like at that point in time, you're like, does it have to be like a member of staff?
Right.
Like who's in the school?
It's McGonagall. She came from the school. It's a Gryffindor. She would know the password.
There we go. She probably sets the password, in fact.
Probably.
Yeah. Did you suspect McGonagall?
Not even one bit.
Yeah, no, me neither. Yeah. And in fact, this is actually one of my favorite. Like, there's something I really, really, really love. I mean, I love McGonagall as a character in general. But there are these moments because she's so like firm and strict about everything. When she does get kind of like soft and caring, it's like you feel like she really means it.
I know. It's maybe the sternness is just like, this is my professional, I'm a teacher mode, but like there are like I do care about all of you a lot. I just don't like act like it, you know.
Well, you know, it's sort of like in order to maintain order, you know, I need to keep this stony facade. I need to be your teacher. I'm not your friend, like whatever. But then it's like, you know, when push comes to shove, it's like, no, I do care about you guys a lot. And I do feel for you. And I see the struggles you go through and everything. It's just, it's not my job. It's not my position to be there being that person for you. But then she's being really good with Harry and Ron and everything.
Yeah. Although, let's back up a sec because before the Quidditch match gets canceled, this stood out to be so unusual. Another just random Madam Hooch moment, which I still don't know what she even does. But the teams walked onto the field to tumultuous applause. Oliver Wood took off for a warm-up flight around the goal posts. Madam Hooch released the balls. And then that's the part that is baffling to me because the next sentence is the Hufflepuffs who played in Canary Yellow were standing in a huddle having a last-minute discussion of tactics. So I'm like, wait. She released the balls before the game started? What are you doing?
Oh, the Bludgers just like Oliver's up there doing like a warm-up lap or whatever. And he's just getting battered.
By Bludgers.
By both Bludgers, which are like, we have no other target, so this guy's up here. So, you know.
I know.
Let's knock him off.
I guess the snitch is just loose already.
I guess so.
I mean, part of me feels like that sort of makes sense. Like the Seekers can't watch it come out of the box and immediately start following it. Like as of the game starting, it's already out there. But like, if you know that's the case, then the Seekers, like, if I was Wood, I'd be like, Harry, you need to be on the pitch like 30 minutes earlier. Just like be looking for it the whole time.
Just be looking.
While no one's there. Okay, you got it?
Yeah,
cool.
You stand on the ground, look at the sun.
Yeah. Do not lose that snitch.
Yeah. Keep an eye on it at all costs.
Anyway, okay, that's all I wanted to say. I don't understand. That seems like a poor order of operations. Hooch.
Yeah, yes it does.
Anyway,
it does.
Yes. But let's get on to McGonagall.
Yeah, so we got McGonagall who basically says like, Potter, I think you better come with me. And then Ron basically is like running over and is like, wait, what about me? And McGonagall's like, yes, perhaps you should come too, Weasley. And they get up to the hospital wing where she says, this is going to be a bit of a shock in a surprisingly gentle voice. And it's like, oh man, she's scared. Oh, the worst. And yeah, we discover that there has been a double attack, which maybe the double attack is what's really like stressing people out so much. Or maybe everybody just cares deeply about Hermione and they're like, no, she's our best student if she's down.
Well, the last double attack was on a ghost, you know.
True. Yeah,
which is like, that's the part that seemed like it really freaked everyone out. Like, hey, what can hurt a ghost?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly, yeah. But so then we're discovering that Hermione has been attacked, and Madame Pomfrey is bending over, and this is one of those things where there's a correction from the audiobook over to the written copy. The original copy of this story described the other person who has been attacked, who we of course know to be Penelope Clearwater, as a 5th-year girl, not a 6th-year girl. And I believe, what's up?
Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out where does it say 6th-year girl?
It says Madame Pomfrey was bending over a 6th-year girl for with long curly hair.
Okay.
Harry recognized her as the Ravenclaw that accidentally asked for directions to the Slytherin common room.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and on the bed next to her was Hermione.
But now it's been it used to say 5th.
It used to say 5th.
Now it's 6th.
Now it's 6th.
Okay, so.
Yeah. So, and I think it's because, does she end up being a head girl? I can't remember next year. But I think the idea here is that her and Percy are just in the same year.
Got it.
Because next year is Percy's last year.
Right.
So I think that, otherwise she would just be like a year below Percy. So anyway, just a small modification, but I always find those to be incredibly interesting when I find them. This is the point where now that we know the whole story, because we've read the story so many times, Hermione is holding a small circular mirror, and this is because she has has, of course, realized that it's a basilisk, and upon realizing it's a basilisk, she's peeking around corners.
Which immediately pays off.
Which immediately pays off, thank goodness. And I think she has also handed one to Penelope as well. Does it say that they both had one, or just Hermione?
I think they just both used Hermione's.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, okay.
But do you think the basilisk cannot shred up the petrified people? Like once they're petrified, they're just like, oh no, it's basically a rock now. You know, who else is even around this time?
I know. Yeah, it's not like there's anybody there to chase them off or something.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah. It's like what? Otherwise, the basilisk is like, man. You want to know what's extremely inconvenient? I've got these eyes that can petrify stuff.
Or laser burn them.
Yeah. We don't get to see any scorch marks on this particular scene.
That's true. We don't get to look at the scene on this time.
Yeah. But no, it is like one of those things where it's just like, man, well, what are you doing there, Basilisk? What's your play? Or is it just meant to be terrifying? I guess we know eventually they're trying to lure Harry down, so maybe just leave him some breadcrumbs.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like he's trying to kill all of these people and failing over and over and over again.
It's not working so well.
Not working so well, Basilisk.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Shred somebody.
You say you're gonna.
You say you're gonna.
You're being awfully creepy to 10-year-old us.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, all the students are forced back to their common rooms here. There's another great little misdirection on Percy, where Percy Weasley was sitting in a chair behind Lee, but for once he didn't seem keen to make his views heard, which one is sort of red herring. That's sort of throwing shade at him. But then George sort of covers for him and says, that Ravenclaw girl, Penelope Clearwater, she's a prefect. I don't think he thought the monster would dare attack a prefect, which is Percy literally said that earlier in the story.
He did.
So there's that. It's but it's also sort of a rare, sweet moment from Percy where the real reason he's not talking is because he's so worried about his girlfriend.
I know, but this is one of those crazy things where I'm like, why not just tell people?
I know, you're right. You're right. It is another thing. It's just dude, Percy, it's I love that you love your girlfriend and stuff like that, but stop being so embarrassed about your relationship.
I can see a world where you're home over the summer, you're all living in the borough. It's the parameters and status and positions and years and everything that you have at school is not here to protect you. Your siblings are Fred and George.
Right.
They're inevitably going to give you a hard time for having a girlfriend because the high schoolers be like that. You know, I could see a world where it's okay, maybe you don't want to talk about it, or put yourself in the position to have that conversation. And this is me attempting to go back into the mind of a 16-year-old version of myself.
Right.
That could be more secretive with this information. But you've been at school for almost a full year now. It's have you guys been spending the whole year sneaking around
in the dungeons?
Because next year we know that they're just going to be openly in a relationship.
I know.
It's a thing. Everybody just knows what's going on. Nobody's busting them for it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's totally fine. It's going to be fine. The other thing, though, just slightly before that, though, is Lee Jordan is recounting all the various victims, and he says there's 2 Gryffindors, not counting a Gryffindor ghost, 1 Ravenclaw, 1 Hufflepuff, and this is sort of it's earlier in the chapter we've just decided well, it almost has to be a Gryffindor, but then all of a sudden it's well, now it's looking like the Gryffindors are dropping like flies, and Slytherin's the only one who hasn't had any victims yet.
Right.
And so it's wait, so is it a Slytherin? So again,
the confusion.
Right, yeah. This again kind of goes back to the whodunit model, where it's just sort of wait, no, them? A page ago I was sure it had to be a Gryffindor, but now are we thinking it's not?
Right.
Could it be Hermione?
Yeah. She attacked herself.
She attacked herself.
Brilliant, I say.
Yes, indeed.
There it is. And let's see. Then they get down to the bottom of the page and they say, "What are we going to do?" said Ron quietly in Harry's ear. "Do you think they suspect Hagrid?" And it's how could they not at this point? They should absolutely suspect Hagrid at this point. If this is why he was expelled, why they broke his wand, they should 1,000,000% be asking him questions already.
Yes.
They're wrong. They'd be wrong about it, but they absolutely should suspect him.
Yes. Yeah. That is what it comes down to. It's sort of if that's the last known evidence any of us have to do anything with the Chamber of Secrets, and the person is still in proximity, someone needs to be talking to him.
Someone needs to be talking to him, man.
That's just covering your bases. That's simple safety. But
he goes, "I can't believe it's him this time. Last time, sure."
He was just a kid then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so then they finally decide for the first time all year to bust out Harry's dad's old cloak.
Oh, it is about time, boys. It is about time.
I know, yeah. If you have an invisibility cloak and you're at wizard school and you're not using it like at least once a week, I think you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
No doubt.
It's like
No
someone
doubt.
who has like a really nice car and they just leave it parked in their garage all the time. It's like, you got to drive it.
You gotta drive it, dude.
Yeah,
like,
what's
what are
the
you
point of
doing?
having it?
You
Yeah.
have one of the Deathly Hallows, bro. Not that you're aware of that or anything, or even what those are.
Yeah.
It sounds like the trip underneath the invisibility cloak is not so easy because there's so many ghosts and teachers and such roaming the corridors, and yet. This sentence surprises me. It says, it was with relief that they reached the oak front doors and eased them open. I'm like, you have all these guards roaming all over your school and nobody's manning the front door? Like, come on, Dumbledore. Like, what are you doing?
I know. That's
No one's on the front door.
right. It's like Dumbledore is supposedly the most brilliant wizard ever. You know,
Yeah.
like just raw intelligence and magical prowess. And it's sort of like, it's like he can figure out the Horcruxes. He can figure out and piece together all these obscure memories and details from things that happened, you know, I think at that point in time, like 70 years prior.
Yeah.
And here we are, and it's like, really, it's like there's not a huge list of creatures capable of petrifying things that could have something to do with Salazar Slytherin. And
Right.
if you've talked to Newt ever, you know what a basilisk is.
Right.
Hagrid's having the rooster problem. Like, yeah, these are the puzzle pieces, my friend.
These are the puzzle pieces right there.
Yeah.
My only allowance for this is that this is the Dumbledore's big plan situation, and he's like, Harry's he's gonna go to. I mean, I don't know how he doesn't know about the diary, so
No.
he'd have no way to know that Harry knew about Hagrid.
Right.
But maybe he's like, Harry's probably gonna go visit Hagrid tonight.
yeah.
Because he seems to know that he's there later.
He does seem to know that he's
Yeah.
there later, which that was something. So yeah, we can zoom forward, I think, a little bit here, because basically Harry and Ron are underneath the cloak. They make their way down to Hagrid, who's clearly like realized that at this point in the equation, too much time has passed.
Yeah.
And he feels fairly certain that somebody's coming for him, and he's correct.
And he's prepared to shoot them with a crossbow.
With a crossbow.
I know. He says he's leveling the crossbow at them as they open the door. I'm like, who would he have fired it at had it been them?
Yeah, Lucius
You know?
shows up first. Lucius dies.
Absolutely. You know what? Yes. If Lucius shows up first, he has got a crossbow bolt in the chest.
Yeah. So that's a good point, though, where it's sort of like, Hagrid, I appreciate the fact that you're like on edge, but like, that's a full-blown weapon.
Yeah. If you think shooting someone with the crossbow is going to get you off the hook.
It is. It's not
is
going to
not.
help. It's not going to help.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then basically very, very shortly after they arrive, they are served cups of boiling water because Hagrid forgot to add the tea bags. There's fruitcake on the plate, which this is always one of those things where I sort of love the fact that Hagrid always does have baked goods.
He's baking food down there, man.
It's just like if he's not tinkering or meddling with creatures, he's meddling with his favorite new recipes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to imagine.
Yes.
But yeah, then Dumbledore walks in. He's looking deadly serious. This kind of similar to the McGonagall thing. This feels like kind of like a juxtaposition. It's like normally, McGonagall's very stern and she was very soft in this chapter, and normally Dumbledore is very like whimsical and upbeat and fun and positive, and he's looking very intense.
Yeah.
Which we know he can look.
Yeah.
This happens more times going throughout the future. So I think it's good usage when it's there because it gets the point across very, very effectively. Let's see here. And then with Dumbledore, though, also comes in Cornelius Fudge, who I mean, I'm not really going to defend Fudge or anything, but at least to his credit, he doesn't really seem happy about the fact that he's there.
He does not. Yeah, he's like we said earlier. He's like mostly just like we've got to be seen to be doing something, and it's like, yeah, but like you are doing something, and what feels like the obvious thing to do. So like I don't know, just own it, I guess.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
But then he's like so wishy-washy about it. He says, not a punishment, Hagrid, more a precaution. If someone else is caught, you'll be let out with a full apology. And it's like, to me, it's also crazy that if it's not a punishment and it is just a precaution, that like maybe you don't need to go all the way to Azkaban.
I know.
with it. Like,
just take Hagrid from the school. Go put him in like a holding container at the ministry.
Right.
Surely that exists.
Surely that exists. Surely you have any other holding facility between like people who have committed crimes and people who are sentenced for life. Like all crimes end in Azkaban in the wizarding world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But so Azkaban also feels like, yet again, inside of this chapter, another small setup for the next book installment.
Absolutely.
As long as we're keeping track of those things. Then Hagrid gets yet another visitor. It's a very happening hut on this particular evening, where Lucius finally shows up. And this is like one of those scenes again, like where it's like, I think a lot of times we have turned Lucius into such a joke of a character, and on like the broad strokes version of him, he's pretty ineffective at almost everything.
Yeah.
And we've made fun of Lucius kind of relentlessly, to be honest with you. So he's sort of similar to like Lockhart, where it's like it's really funny to think about Lockhart as a character, but when you hear him talk, you're like, you are so frustrating.
Right.
Like, it is driving me nuts to imagine somebody behaving in the way that you behave. But then you've got Lucius who shows up, and man, he is just a jerk.
He absolutely is.
Yeah. He's making fun of Hagrid's house. He's being very like, I don't know, smug.
Very smug. I mean, because he's basically there and he's just like, well, I've got a brand new toy here and I'm going to go play with it and I get to take Dumbledore away from the school and you can't stop me, Cornelius. This is something only the governors can do.
Excellent.
Yeah, basically.
Excellent evil laugh.
Yes, thank you.
So basically he says, I think that he's also, let's see here. He says, I simply called at the school and was told that the headmaster was here. And what exactly did you want with me, Lucius? Said Dumbledore. He spoke politely, but the fire was still blazing in his blue eyes. So I kind of want to like dial in on that because it's the second time inside of this chapter that Dumbledore's eyes sort of have this like fiery nature to them, which is not even the last time that we'll see this happen in the series altogether. Like Dumbledore is associated with fire on numerous occasions, which this is kind of like one of our like fun fan theories is that like Dumbledore as an animagus could be a phoenix.
A phoenix, yeah.
Because he's obviously like very highly like aligned with them, and then like even like the huge displays of magic that we see from him, like in the cave, for instance, like when he's fending off like the Inferi, he's creating
big
like
fire,
a massive inferno. I think he's also like very strong. I think after Harry arrives back in Goblet of Fire, Dumbledore like lifts him with like a surprising amount of like strength.
Yeah, which like phoenixes also have.
What was the other one?
No healing tears that I'm aware of.
No healing tears.
Oh, he likes music.
He does like music. Yeah. He says like music, magic beyond anything we do within these walls.
Yeah, and like the Phoenix
song.
Lament or whatever, will like lift your spirits.
Yes. So he does. And then of course he has a Phoenix himself.
He has a Phoenix, and there's that like line in Fantastic Beasts where it's like a Phoenix will appear to a Dumbledore in need or whatever.
Right. So we know that they're highly aligned. And I think also in Fantastic Beasts he says a line like, I've always had an affinity for the
legendary birds or whatever.
Yeah. It
sounds like Pokemon.
The Pokemonification of it, but you get what
one of which is a Moltres.
Yeah, right.
Which is a Phoenix and is the Ho-Oh, I guess. And
right.
Both there.
But the other thing that I think is interesting about this that I wanted to draw attention to his eyes on is, and this was literally just as I was reading this chapter, because basically this is a situation where Hagrid knows that Ron and Harry are inside of the cabin, but it also definitely seems like Dumbledore knows that they're inside.
It definitely seems like it.
And we get two references to his eyes, which is sort of like what drew my attention there in the first place. But it brought me back to Mad-Eye Moody and his ability to see through Harry's cloak when he's like trapped inside of the Trick Stair in Goblet of Fire in the middle of the night with the egg. And I was like, okay, it's kind of fascinating because Mad-Eye's eye, the one that can like do all these powers, is described as being like electric blue.
Yeah.
And Dumbledore is described as having like piercing blue eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is there a world where Dumbledore's both of his eyes are like the equivalent of like Mad Eye's.
Yeah, where he's just
eye.
like, it's like when he says it's like piercing blue eyes, he's like, he can literally look through you if he wants to.
Yes, I mean, and like there are so many occasions where Dumbledore's vision is described as like as if Harry's being X-rayed.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm kind of like, that's sort of wild,
right?
Like, is it possible that Dumbledore made Mad Eye Moody's eye?
Oh yeah, I mean, doesn't seem impossible because we see them in Dumbledore's memories in the Pensive where he's already friends with Moody before he has the eye.
Pre-electric eye. Yeah. So it's like, okay. Electric blue. I don't think the eye itself is like motorized.
I don't think there's no Muggle technology in there. Yeah.
No. But anyway, I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I've never really considered that before. I've always assumed, that Dumbledore, like, he's got like a super sensory, even just being like a Legilimens, it almost sometimes feels like that could be like a way to be like, I'm going to read the memory, or I'm going to read the minds of the people in the room. And it's like, in doing so, it's like if you hear Harry's thoughts, it's like, I know Harry's in the room. Like, to me, that's always been like a way that he could have like discovered.
Yeah, that they're there.
Yeah.
But there's like there is like it does like a like he sees them or something because it says for a second Harry was almost sure Dumbledore's eyes flickered toward the corner where he and Ron stood hidden.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it does. I mean, it seems like if nothing else, he knows where they are.
He knows that they are there and where they are, and like clearly the message: "You will find that I will only truly have left the school when none here are loyal to me. You will also find that help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it." Is clearly directed at Harry.
Yes. Yeah. So both Hagrid and Dumbledore just openly having discussions with the unknown people in the room.
And much to like his Malfoy's just like, admirable sentiments. Okay. Thank you for randomly announcing that.
Yes.
We shall all miss your highly individual way of running things. Bye-bye.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
But of course, Dumbledore's line there, like the having, you will find that I've only truly left the school when none here are loyal to me. This is definitely like one of those, like it's a definite setup for the Chamber of Secrets coming soon, where Harry is in the chamber beneath the school, and I think Tom Riddle like says Dumbledore has been forced from the school by the mere memory of me.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then like Harry comes back and he's like, Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Like he's here.
As long as people are loyal to him.
Which I am.
Fox.
Chills.
Oh man. Boom.
Amazing. So
amazing.
Cool. So cool. Or is it Fox or is it just Dumbledore himself?
It's Fox.
It's Fox.
Yeah.
It's Fox. But yeah, so anyway, that pretty much, Then of course we round off with Hagrid speaking also to the room, and we get the mention of someone will need to feed Fang for me, and also that you would follow the spiders if anybody needed to find out some stuff.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Fudge stared at him with amazement. I highlighted and I wrote, reasonable.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's like one of those situations where it's like, if you don't know what else is going on, you're like, what?
What? What are you talking about spiders for, dude?
It's like, especially because in this exact situation, the reason that the Minister for Magic is there in the first place is because Hagrid had been known to be keeping a very dangerous spider inside of the castle.
Right.
And there is Hagrid saying to seemingly no one,
right,
follow the spiders.
Right.
It's almost like if you're the minister in this moment, if you're Fudge, you're like, yeah, we got the right guy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like,
yeah, it's definitely him.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's like follow the spiders. That's what you're going with in this plea for innocence.
Yeah. Because you're apparently talking to me.
Right.
If anyone wanted to know anything, Fudge.
Yeah. If it was me, I'd follow the spiders. We know that's what you would do.
Yeah. Sounds like maybe you are following some spider orders, you know?
Yeah. Maybe so.
Yeah. Also, there's a line down here. I think it's from... I don't actually know who's saying Ron. I think it says there will be an attack a day with him gone, talking about Dumbledore not being there, which I'm just like, what do you think Dumbledore is doing to prevent the other attacks?
True.
You know?
True. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like secretly in the night, Dumbledore's having mad duels
with the basilisk.
He's winning most of the time.
Most of the time, he's getting. He's like he is thwarting that guy off. Woo!
Yeah, he's doing it.
Got him.
So anyway, there's chapter 14. I feel like it's a little bit of like a setup chapter. I think it's, kind of giving us some exposition, some like overall big plot points and that type of thing. But I don't know if I want to call it like a fluff chapter, but it's sort of interesting. It hops around a little bit. Not everything is.
Yeah, I mean it's not the
Absolutely
very secret diary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but then the next one is Aragog, so
yes.
things are going to ramp right back up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're about to. We've had like the very small, like, the plot has been building and building and building. We had a small like little plateau there, and we're about to like rocket right off. Into
We're in the middle of the rising action.
The finale. Yeah, as it were. So, anyway, that closes out chapter 14.
There we go. Well, I've got a review for us here.
Lay it on me.
From Blind Guy 93.
Okay.
Says, "Hey brothers, been following you both for years. Absolutely love the podcast. I have a question. It seems extraordinarily unlikely that Snape would ever haphazardly leave his potion book around. I don't think he wanted Harry to find it, but do you think there was some part of him that wanted another talented, underprivileged Slytherin to find it? Also, I truly believe Snape was great at occlumency because of the deep, albeit troubling love he had for Lily. Voldemort would never be able to pass through that type of love."
Ooh.
Which I liked this idea that the real reason Snape is good at occlumency is because he has one secret that he absolutely doesn't want anyone to know, like basically his whole life.
Yeah.
And that it's that he's in love with Lily Evans.
Yes.
And he even when he makes the deal with Dumbledore, he says, "No one must ever know."
Right.
And it's like, that's his condition. And he's like, "The one good thing about you, okay." It's like Snape has been keeping this secret for so long. He's like, I will never, ever let anyone find this out about me.
Right.
Like I'm going to have to be good at occlumency, so it can't even be read out of my brain.
I know. That's even like, I mean, so it's interesting, like, that would be his compulsion, would be like, I don't want anybody to read my mind and discover this piece of information, because as you were saying it, I think that maybe that is how this reviewer meant the question. But as I was hearing it, I was like, oh, is it almost as if like Snape is protected because like the primary fundamental reason for his like secrecy towards anything is love, which is like a vault that Voldemort could never.
That could like maybe he's not good at occlumency. He just like, because he's so motivated by love, he is protected.
Yes, his motivations are all love, and so it's like it's almost like an encrypted code that Voldemort can't even see, let alone break into, because he's so incapable of it. So it's like he is unable. I mean, we know this to be true. Like he is so unable to believe that Snape would be acting so on behalf of love that he would betray Voldemort at all, which is his fatal flaw, basically.
I do like that. I like this idea. Either I like both versions of it, where either the reason he's mastered occlumency is to hide the fact that he's in love with Lily, or the idea that because he's so in love with her that it is, and that's his like core motivation for everything, that he is protected from like probing and stuff.
But well, even this would fit well though, like on the love notion. It would fit well because I think Dumbledore could read Snape's mind. He could know. He could, like, because Dumbledore understands love.
Right.
So he could potentially read Snape's mind more effectively than Voldemort ever could. But that is like the edge that Dumbledore has over Voldemort in the end.
Right.
Like, Voldemort can't crack through, so he can never know the underlying motivations, whereas Dumbledore can crack through, and therefore he can have ironclad trust in Snape. And it's like, it's not just faith.
But Dumbledore doesn't have to read it. Snape just tells him.
No, I know. Yeah. But at some point in time, it's like one of those questions where it's like both Voldemort and Dumbledore are absolutely certain that they can trust Snape.
Yeah.
And it's like one of them is going to have to be wrong.
Yes.
And they're both certain that it's not them.
Right.
But it's like, is it the case that like Dumbledore has like it's ignorance on the part of Voldemort that makes him unable to figure it out, where it's knowledge on the part of Dumbledore that allows that faith to remain.
Right.
Which I prefer.
Yeah.
Because then it's sort of like, Voldemort, foiling your own plans yet again.
As usual. It's surprising because Voldemort like must know that he can't probe Snape's mind,
Well, unless that's what I mean, like unless it's so encrypted inside of Snape's mind that it's like he is seeing inside of Snape's mind. He can see the things that aren't protected by love.
I see.
So he can see everything else.
Right.
But that would mean that he thinks he's in a room and he's seeing, like, kind of like Hagrid's hut. It's like he thinks he's seeing the room for what it is, but he doesn't know what's being hidden from him.
Right. He can't see Harry and Ron.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As for the copy of Advanced Potion Making, I too have found it to be unusual that this is something that Snape would part with.
Yes. Yeah. It seems weird that he would forget it down there.
Yeah. So,
Like-
I mean, I would have to go back and revisit our notes from Dumbledore's big plan, but it would shock me if we didn't think it was somehow relevant.
I know, but even then, it's like it's really just a coin flip on whether or not Harry or Ron gets the book.
I know, but I feel like if Ron gets the book, he's just annoyed. Like, I think it
Yeah.
takes like Harry. I think that's like Harry's cunning bleeding through just ever so slightly.
Yeah.
You know, that he's like willing to be like, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah,
Why not,
I mean,
you know?
absolutely. But like, if Ron had gotten the book, he would Harry wouldn't have been reading it.
No,
the whole
he
time.
wouldn't
Yeah.
have. Yeah, no, of
Yeah.
course, yeah. So I don't think Ron would have been at like a distinct advantage if he had it. I think
No,
it's only at an advantage in Harry's hands.
Yes.
So I mean, maybe that's the coin flip that's just like worth taking the chance on.
Right.
You know. But I'm trying to think, is there anything really, really, really major that he learns from the Half-Blood? I mean, he learns a lot from the Half-Blood Prince.
Well, the major thing that happens is that he wins the Felix Felicis.
That's the
that's how
thing.
he gets the secret from Slughorn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of those things feel like they could be relevant in that capacity then, because
It's conceivable that the Felix Felicis contest could have been like a known tradition of Slughorns on day one.
it definitely
you know,
feels like it.
Yeah, like that could have been in there. So Dumbledore could have maybe wanted this, and he like there's a world where Dumbledore like knows Harry wasn't going to take potions, but now will be allowed to take potions, and he'll discover that on day one, and like
that all plays into it in my mind.
Actually, you know what? Because Ron, here's the kicker: Ron wasn't going to take potions. McGonagall almost messes it up for him.
Oh, you're right.
McGonagall's
right.
like, Weasley, go with him.
Right, yeah.
He'll look too happy.
You're doing it too. It's
Yeah.
like, oh man. Yeah.
That throws the wrench.
Because what I was going to say even more than that too, though, is that we always replace the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and Harry even thinks he's recruiting Slughorn for Defense Against the Dark Arts. But like the fact that Dumbledore is looking for someone for potions so that Snape can move to Defense Against the Dark Arts would even allow for like such a situation to exist. Because I can't imagine Harry would also get away with having Snape's own copy of the book in a classroom of like 8 people.
Yeah.
But he wasn't even he couldn't have taken, like, Harry's grades weren't good enough to have allowed him to take the NEWT level anyway. So he had to find a way to get Snape out of potions. Otherwise, Harry couldn't have taken it.
Right.
You know? So I don't know, a lot of it fits together.
A lot of it does fit together in a way that like Dumbledore could be like, leave your potions book there, man.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, because I mean, then he can win the Felix, which then the Felix is, I mean, and he, not only does he win the Felix from Slughorn, he uses the Felix on Slughorn.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So, yeah, it all
Well, that's the
kinda
other
comes
reason
together.
you want Slughorn is because he knows Slughorn has this memory. Like
Exactly.
Dumbledore's already cooking on this.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe he just knows like Slughorn's the perfect person to pick. It's like this is like killing like 4 birds with one stone.
It is. Yeah. All right. You know what? The realization that Ron wasn't going to be there and the fact that it's a coin flip is only a coin flip by accident really makes it seem more intentional that the book was left there on Dumbledore's instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. It all works out so perfectly.
It does all work out so nicely.
It's like it comes together in such a remarkable way.
Yeah.
Because of course he's not going to have his book. That's the other thing.
Right, he's not going to have it.
Because he doesn't know.
And Dumbledore knows he won't have it
Right.
because he knows Snape. He knows Harry thinks he's not taking it.
Right.
Yeah, but he knows Harry wants to be an Auror, and he knows he's going to be allowed to take it once Slughorn's the professor.
Yeah, no, it fits.
Yeah, it fits too well.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Great question.
Great question. Snape's not being haphazard.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
it's a plan.
This is a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. We got there.
Snape and Dumbledore are already cooking so many other things together in this book. So.
I know. Yeah. It's a big Snape book.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Great question. Man, I have to say, please leave your reviews and please add your questions.
Yes.
Because
Please.
I feel like one of my favorite parts of each of these episodes is getting to the end and somebody asking such an insightful question.
Dude, I'm so impressed by the questions people leave in the reviews because, I mean, people ask us questions about Harry Potter all the time. And almost never are we getting anything like new or juicy out of those questions. But almost every review question is like...
I know. It's like wait.
great question. So keep them coming. Well done. Thank you for your reviews. We really appreciate it. It does help the podcast. I know we haven't talked about the chartables any here recently, but last time I checked, we were presently in the top 10 for the U.S., Canada, and Great Britain for entertainment news.
That's amazing.
But
That's
still,
amazing.
there.
And we of course also in an area where we're having less progress, but almost in a fun way, is our goal for 100,000 subscribers.
Oh, we're getting there, man. We're almost to 30,000.
I know we're inching our way up. It's happening slowly but surely. If you're one of those people that's like, but my one won't contribute to the whole, it's like
it will,
and it
totally does.
will. Yes, indeed. So if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, definitely slap that subscribe button. If you're listening in your car or somewhere and you're like, all right, you know what? They got me today. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. That's it. I'm signing up.
Do it.
We'd appreciate it. It'd be so much fun to get that. You get a silver play button and 100,000.
You do, yeah.
Anyway, that's our very selfish reason for asking you to do so. So we appreciate it.
We'll put it on the set.
There you go. That's exactly right.
Yeah. All right. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Make sure you turn in next week for Chapter 15, Aragog, here on Through the Griffin Door. Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Griffin Door, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands, dust off your broomsticks, and join us as we unlock the treasures behind Chamber of Secrets, Chapter 15, Aragog.
Aragog.
Oh boy, it's about time. So I'm like, my immediate thought when I'm answering, because this is where we're finally going to meet Giant Spider Aragog.
Yeah, not Aragorn.
Not Aragorn, not oregano.
Oregano.
Not Aragon.
Yes.
There's so many things. And then who's the spider in Lord of the Rings?
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I can never.
Shelob or something.
Shelob?
Shelob. Yeah, people are like, oh my gosh, you guys. Ugh. Yeah, Shelob. There's so many. So on that note, what do you think it is possible to have guessed Giant Spider by this point?
Oh, so the question is, has there been enough context to lead us to believe that this could be out there?
Right. Could you have, I think there's enough weird spider behavior and large hairy things scuttled past Tom Riddle in the diary.
I don't know. It's kind of one of those where it does feel like there's a scene where we see spiders sort of all scurrying in a line away from one of the attacks, right?
Yeah.
So we know that there's that, but this is one of those where it's there's a lot of weird behavior happening, and that's kind of what Chamber of Secrets is all about. It's just red herrings everywhere. So it's hard to say. I don't know. I don't think so, but do you?
I don't know. I think you could have guessed that the creature Hagrid had was a spider. I don't think you'd have guessed that it's bigger than a car.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
I suppose that could be one of those things where it's if you've read enough other fantasy things, maybe giant spider is just at some point in the series, there will be giant spider.
Right. That seems like enough of a trope, that it wouldn't be completely unreasonable, especially for one to have human level intelligence.
Which that's the crazy part. Yeah, you can talk English and stuff.
I know. Yeah, it's very interesting that the other thing about Aragog is that it even it sort of alludes to the basilisk and its existence and how Acromantula in general sort of fear this particular thing. We do not speak its name. It's we don't talk about it. But it's also Aragog has exclusively lived in sort of a removed environment from what his home habitat might actually be.
That's true.
To the point where it's hard to know how Aragog ever could have learned the kind of information that instinctually it may know, I don't want to be near this thing.
It feels like the basilisk, the spiders all sort of instinctually know what it is and like fear it. Like they can sense its presence in some sort of like ethereal way.
Yes, yeah. It seems to be like in the air in the same, and there is like this trifecta going on where there's the rooster, the spiders, and the basilisk.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a game of like rock, paper, scissors a little bit.
Right.
You know, where it seems like each one sort of has like a little bit of power over the other in a really strange and unusual way. But the other thing that's kind of interesting about it is that like Hagrid's advice to follow the spiders, because that's pretty much what we just left the last chapter 14 with, is Hagrid, you know, they're inside of Hagrid's hut. Ron and Harry are underneath the invisibility cloak. Fudge appears with Malfoy and Dumbledore.
Right.
And he sort of like leaves with this cryptic advice of like, you know, if anybody wanted to learn some stuff, they should follow the spiders.
Oh, the spiders.
And that's like an interesting one, because it's like, is Hagrid being a lover of Fantastic Beasts? Does he know? Like, he can't possibly know it's a basilisk.
He does not know, because Aragog says Hagrid has asked him many times and he has never told him.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
like, is Hagrid's advice more like, if you want to find out, like, what happened in my situation, I would follow the spiders?
I think that's what he's saying.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because,
like-
I mean, in the meantime, though, it's not very... It's simultaneously good advice and not good advice, because Hagrid, seeing the good in all creatures, doesn't believe that Aragog will cause damage to Harry or Ron if he were to go into their glade.
Yeah.
Hagrid's wrong.
Hagrid's wrong.
You know, and it is dangerous, and it's like poor advice. But we also learn more about what happens, or Harry ultimately learns more, although probably only in like a cryptic capacity. Like Aragog doesn't intentionally tell him anything.
Yeah.
You know, even at the end of the chapter, Harry's like lying in bed being like, well, I don't know, like what comes next.
Yeah, all he really learns is that Hagrid's innocent.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is sort of like an interesting one as well before we get into the chapter, because I think it's just it's a theory around Aragog in particular that I have a very love-hate relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
And that theory is that like when we learn that Aragog came to Hagrid, it's basically under the premise of like in the pocket of a traveler.
Yeah.
And I think that like when Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them came out and people started to learn more about the character of like Newt Scamander, it was like the pocket of a traveler was Newt.
Right.
And Newt was the one who gave, you know, Aragog to
Hagrid. Yeah.
And the reason I have such a love-hate relationship with it is because it's like, on the one hand, it's kind of like, it seems unlike Newt to think of beasts so much. Like, while he keeps them in his case, it seems like he keeps them all for very like specific purposes.
Yeah.
And it would seem odd for him to like hand them over as like a pet.
It does seem odd, especially because it feels like even if Hagrid doesn't know better, like Newt would maybe know better a little bit.
But the thing about that is, and that was the exact sentiment I wanted you to express, because it's like Newt also from like Lita Lestrange has that sentiment of like, you've never met a beast you couldn't love. And
Yeah.
in that moment, Lita is referring kind of to herself.
Kind of to herself,
like,
yeah.
You know, but like, I think it also stands true for Newt. Like it is one of those things like where Newt can see the good in everything, especially beasts that might otherwise be quite dangerous. And like,
Yeah.
we've had some theories about like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them before, where like Newt's whole thing is that like he will write about beasts only in a capacity that is beneficial to the beasts.
Yeah.
Like the sentiment of like where to find them is almost like, hey, are you a bird watcher and do you want to go into the woods and find cool things to look at? Like it's almost like Newt is only going to inform the populace about what they need to know that will protect the species that are out there. And
Right.
then our big argument forever has been like the Zowu, like in Crimes of Grindelwald,
Yeah.
is very prominent in the film and also very not featured in
Not featured at all
the book.
Yeah.
As well as the oh gosh, what's the tiny baby deer thing? The Chillin.
Oh, the Chillin, yeah. It's like, yeah, it's huge in the movie, and Newt personally handles one and encounters 3 of them in the
Yes.
movie,
Yeah.
and like knows obviously where to go to find them, to look for it.
Right.
And it's not in there, despite it being like kind of a widely well-known animal. And like, it's like, why isn't it in there? It's because Newt doesn't want to tell you where to find them. He doesn't even want you to know about them. He wants them to remain peacefully secluded away in China.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes, yeah. We're like in their natural habitat. And so it's like he doesn't inform you because you don't need to know because you shouldn't find them. And he doesn't even want to tell you what their powers are because their powers will be taken advantage of. And he doesn't want that.
Right.
So it's like, so it's like our headcanon explanation is just like, so just exclude it entirely. So anyway, like when it comes back to like Aragog though, that's where it's like there's a piece of me that like Hagrid has this same belief. He would send Harry and Ron into the forest because he doesn't believe that there's a beast that would cause harm to humans.
Right.
And so like Hagrid is very similar to Newt in this capacity. He's seeing the best in them.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they are also still dangerous.
I mean, they're very dangerous. And it's like, yeah, why would he give it to him? It's like, this feels like a question that would have been answered had we gotten the final Fantastic Beasts movies.
True.
You know, like I can see, yeah, Grindelwald has the Acromantula eggs and he wants to, you know, do whatever. He wants an army of giant spiders, and Newt steals the egg, and then he's like, "Crap! Well, he knows I have it, so I got to pass it off, and I'll just put it at Hogwarts, and now you'll take care of it, great, or something." You know,
exactly. It's like, yeah, if Newt could see more of himself in anybody else, it would have to be
Hagrid.
Has to be Hagrid,
Yeah.
because I mean they're such mirrors of one another. It's wild.
Yeah.
Like, even I mean it's one of those things like where when you see the fact that Dumbledore is so closely aligned with both Hagrid and Newt at different stages of his life, it's almost like Dumbledore is using this as like a litmus test a little bit to be like, you know, how can I trust somebody?
Right.
And it's like if they have like an affinity for beasts, then it's almost like that's like a good green flag
Right.
for Dumbledore.
Definitely
in terms of
seems
allies.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's one of those where I go back and forth all the time. Even the idea that if it was Newt in particular who gave the spider to Hagrid in the first place offers even more credence, pun intended, since he's also a vital character of the Fantastic Beasts saga, to the idea that Dumbledore would then go out to protect Hagrid in the aftermath.
Because but then it's like Dumbledore should almost like know or something, or be able to be like, well, I have a feeling I know what. Well, I guess it doesn't matter because I think Aragog's the one that did it. So him knowing that, like, oh, Hagrid had a beast ahead of time is almost incriminating to himself. Then
it is incriminating to himself. It's also, I mean, all of this is taking place in 1942, which is 3 years before the ultimate downfall of Grindelwald.
Yeah,
and so
I like the idea that Grindelwald was going to use Aragog as a weapon.
Right.
Yeah.
Even that would be then kind of poetic if then like the Chamber of Secrets is Tom Riddle, who also has that like pure blood mania, and Aragog the spider, who is supposed to be a pawn in Grindelwald's rise to power in a similar capacity, is ultimately the mild undoing of one of Tom Riddle's own efforts. Like,
right.
You know, you can sort of see how the ping pong ball is bouncing back and forth a little bit between those two ideologies.
Like a little tether between these two dark wizards.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very
so
fun.
anyway, that being said, we can dive on into the chapter. I didn't know where I'd be able to talk about that in chapter, so I was like, well, let's lead with it.
Yes.
But so chapter 15, Aragog.
Yeah. So what do you think of the chapter art here? It's mostly just like sort of a weird spider dome in the woods.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't give you a whole lot to work with. You can see like a tiny little spider there. This is again probably one of those instances where there was worry that the chapter art could give too much away.
A little too spoilery.
Because you could just have a gigantic spider. I could also see a world where like, and I have no idea if this would stand true for other chapter arts. Literally the next chapter is Chamber of Secrets, where the chapter art is a giant snake skin. So maybe the point I'm about to make is invalid. But I could see a world where just general fear of spiders in general might lead people to be like a little...
Oh, like don't put giant spiders on your books.
Don't put giant spiders on their books because people don't like giant spiders.
You know, you're right. I'm trying to think of like other Chamber of Secrets like cover arts, and I don't think many of them feature Aragog. Even a lot of flying cars. This one's got... It heavily features Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Dobby and Malfoy. You can see the diary. You can see a spider, and you can see weaving snake skin. You can see Tom Riddle down there. What do you know?
You can, yeah, no. There's a lot going on in this chapter art, but not chapter art, cover art. So anyway, I like the Chamber of Secrets film depiction of Aragog's glade. I thought that scene, I mean, it's pretty uncomfortable, especially if you don't like spiders. But like they went for like a puppetized animatronic version of Aragog. Like they clearly put a lot of resources into creating those visuals. And in general, I always think practical effects are better than CGI.
Yeah.
So it's like I really like how it's all depicted, and it does seem like it's a lot of spiders.
It's a lot of spiders. Yeah.
What we're seeing here seems like one big spider web.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
doesn't quite capture the essence.
Not so much. But then again, it's like, is it out of fear of being spoilery? So
yeah. So there's things that I'd say it's like a solid 5. It's right down the middle.
Right down the middle.
I'm
fine with that.
All right. So anyway, let's actually talk about the chapter here. So Hagrid's been taken away. I love how, in Harry's opinion, that with no Hagrid visible from the castle window, striding the grounds with Fang at his heels, the scene didn't look right to Harry. And I'm just like, yes, Hagrid is the very essence of summer, is he not?
Yeah, nothing says summer like
Hagrid in his giant
oversized coat,
which I assume he wears year round.
Oh, probably. Yeah. I mean,
his big old boots.
It feels moleskin, right?
Yeah.
It feels like moleskin is both somehow warming and breathable.
Exactly.
Yeah. You could wear it for a triathlon if you felt like it.
Right. Probably.
Which Hagrid probably does.
Yeah. He's a big triathlon guy, huge swimmer. By which I mean he's just a large person who swims.
Yeah.
Huge swimmer.
Exactly. A huge swimmer. No, it works out well. But yeah, so it definitely seems like we're narrowing in on the classic Harry Potter trope of it's the end of the school year and therefore the plot needs to reach.
Plot needs to happen.
Yeah. It's like it would be so funny if one of these books was literally just like Christmas, Voldemort attacks, Harry wins, and then the rest of the year is just watching them have classes and play Quidditch.
I know. It's just like, and now who's going to win the Quidditch Cup?
Yay! Yeah. We just get to have fun.
Don't know. It's like Voldemort's not. I need like 9 months of messing with this kid before I do anything. Spring's a good time to attack,
It is.
It is. Spring and attack. Get it? Loves wordplay.
Classic Voldemort.
Classic Voldemort.
Yeah. But that being said, it also seems like despite Hagrid's advice of following the spiders, it's a little bit hard to do because it seems like there are no spiders left in the castle to follow.
That's such a weird one because my note there was just like, well, it's about time. Like these spiders have apparently been fleeing the basilisk since October?
Yeah.
And now what is it? May or April? And it's like it took them that long to all get out of the castle. Like, do they keep coming back? Do they think it's gone?
I wonder the same thing a little bit, or it's like, is this supposed to like represent like how close in proximity does the basilisk need to be in order for the spiders to go into like retreat mode?
Right.
The other thing too is that does it mean that all of the spiders, if they're all going like, in air quotes, home, that they all spiders of all types live in Aragog's glade?
Oh, I know. Yeah. Is it like, or is it just the fact, or is it like the acromantulas are just like so top of the spider food chain that like all other spiders have been decimated and this is all that's left? All spiders are destined to be giant spiders at Hogwarts.
But that would be crazy.
It would be crazy because you know what? It feels like a lot of the spiders you'd see around the school would start to be a little bigger.
A little bit. The size of a Pekingese. A Pekingese, mind you.
Here. Okay, you know what else would have been like an interesting detail is if like throughout the year there was just like, kind of like more bugs around Hogwarts because there were no spiders to eat them.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Yeah,
There's a lot of flies in the air all of a sudden. What's going on?
Right, like there's a little subplot going on where like the mandrakes are struggling because there's like an infestation of other pests that are not being eaten by spiders.
That would have been a great subplot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Something to keep in mind for the HBO show.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
like a nice little detail that's like we don't draw attention to it, but there are more flies.
There are more flies.
There's a light buzzing,
Although, I guess that being said, this is not related because the plan hasn't been enacted yet, but we do know that Hagrid runs into Harry at Nocturne Alley because he's buying flesh-eating slug repellent.
That's true.
So, there is a small pest-related
That's
homage.
true, but yeah, the chamber hasn't been opened at that point.
Oh, but that's what would make it so much better is that it's already been established that there's a pest issue, so it might not seem like that big of a deal. And
You're
like, Harry
right.
can even have lines like, well, Hagrid was buying the flesh-eating slug repellent.
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah. Why are there so many more pest problems?
Although maybe we're like way too in the weeds on the concept that spiders are occasionally beneficial because they eat other insects.
We are not in the weeds on that. This is the main pro spider argument. If spiders don't have this, they have nothing.
They got
They're
nothing going
just
for 'em.
creepy then. Oh my gosh, I watched this guy on Instagram. He does like weekly like home maintenance reminders and like shows you how to do cool things around your house. And he's
nice.
he was doing one about like spraying your house for bugs, and he's like, now there is one bug that actually is beneficial to your house, and it's called the house centipede. It looks like this. It's a total nightmare. And I was like, I hate those things. They're in my house, and every time I see one, it's dead. I don't care what you say.
They're like the
they
super
eat other-
multi-legged,
Yeah. But like they eat other bugs and are like
see.
sort of beneficial to your house, and I'm like, not to me.
Giving me
Not
the
beneficial to
shivers.
my nightmares, I'll tell you that. Sorry, I believe you, but also I'm not taking your advice.
It's hilarious that the dichotomy we have in this book between creepy creatures is ones that have too many legs and ones that don't have enough
Ones
legs.
that don't got enough legs.
Yeah. It's like we're really, that's like a sticking point for us as humans. It's like the amount of like legs or arms something has in either direction
Right.
seems to be really impacting what our general sense is.
If you got more than 4 legs, that's too many. More than 4 limbs,
Yeah, starting to
Afraid not.
starting to become a thing.
Starting to be weird.
So anyway, but so they're having a little bit of a hard time.
Got more than 2 eyes. Then we're really in, uh-oh.
in territory.
Uh-oh, yeah.
How many eyes does Aragog have? Do you remember?
8?
Is it 8?
I think so.
We've had this question on trivia before. I just read this chapter and I still already don't know.
I don't know. We're gonna find out soon, I guess. We'll get to
find out
there
soon,
in our read through here. Also, I do like this. I didn't realize it, but like Harry, after Dumbledore leaves, it says Harry constantly repeated Dumbledore's final words to himself. I will only have truly left the school when none here are loyal to me. Help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. Like I think it's nice that there is like attention paid to like how much Harry is internalizing this and like constantly thinking about it, because it's like also one of those things that feels like it then sets Harry apart from like Ron.
Yeah.
In the coming chapters.
Well, and it's kind of like an interesting one as well, because I know that like when Dumbledore's talking to Harry in King's Cross Station at the end of the book, like after Harry's like halfway death there, I think Dumbledore says a line like, I hope I was a good teacher. And Harry's like, you were the best. And it's like, well, he's only really been instructing you for like kind of a short period of time. In between those moments, you guys weren't having like tons of exchanges. But this is an instance where it's sort of like every word counts. Like,
right.
It's like what Dumbledore is saying at all times is so important. It's so impactful.
Right.
And it's sticking with Harry in such a way. It's also nice that there's a double down on this particular phrase because of how vitally important it is in the next chapter once we enter the Chamber of Secrets itself.
Absolutely it is. And then, you know what? It's interesting. It's like how much teaching did Dumbledore do? But then if you go back to the first book, Harry also thinks Dumbledore like basically wanted Harry to do the obstacle course.
Yes.
So in a sense, that's like Dumbledore teaching him as well.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very much like that sentiment of like, like Dumbledore thought I deserved the chance to have a go at it if I wanted to.
Like Dumbledore seems to teach Harry about like non-traditional, like non-spell based magic.
Oh, you're right. Because
Like
there's
even the
also
mirror.
The mirror,
Yeah.
and then the Sword of Gryffindor in the woods when Harry goes in to get it, and then the locket sort of like turns on him while he's underwater, and then Ron is the one who gets it, and then like afterwards Harry's like, I'm pretty sure it needs to be you. I'm not even pretty sure. He says you're the one who needs to do it, and he's like, Harry wasn't sure why, but there was a certain kind of ness.
Or it was like Dumbledore had taught him enough about certain kinds of magic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's an interesting one. Like all the like non-magic lesson, like actually magic, but not like the kind of magic you think of.
Right. Which I think is also kind of like it's fascinating like reflection if you were to like take it out into the real world, because any of us can be like experts on like our specific fields, our topics, like areas that like we need to be good at.
Right.
And that's like one vital aspect. But then like when you zoom out, it's also like, how do you get along with others? How do you lead? How do you communicate? Like there's so many other things that are essential for success, besides just knowledge in subject matter.
Well, this is then why Harry's the hero and not Hermione too.
There's a point to that, but it's also I mean you can't forget how vital Hermione
you cannot
is.
oversell how important Hermione is.
She's so essential.
Not in this book as much.
I mean, she's been petrified for a hot second, but she still figured it out.
She does still figure it
on
out.
her own.
And there's like a nice little just like one sentence like, oh yeah, we need to make sure they don't. Hermione figured it out a while ago, but now Madame Pomfrey's like, no one can come visit them. There's every chance the attacker might come back to finish these people off. Which the sentence is actually saying we can't let Harry and Ron find out about the piece of paper in Hermione's hand yet.
That's like it's like if you don't include that line, then you inevitably end up with the problem of why weren't Harry and Ron going to visit Hermione in the hospital wing?
Exactly.
And so it's like you got to have that is like reading the book in this capacity is teaching me so many things about like writing where it's sort of like people are going to ask this question, so you have to have a line somewhere innocuously buried that just sort of like clears
it. Yeah,
it's like, oh, there it is. We addressed it.
There's every chance they'll come back. It's like there's no chance he's coming back. What do you mean? Mrs. Norris has been petrified since October, and tons of people have been attacked since then. No one's come back to finish anyone off.
Right. This is not like an all of a sudden problem, but it is. I mean, we talked about this last chapter as well, but it's like the attack on Hermione is the one that finally like does it in. It's almost like the school is like, all right, we got to pay attention to this now.
Yeah.
Hermione went down.
Ugh.
And Penelope Clearwater, but mostly Hermione.
Yeah, that prefect girl.
Yeah, she's got big main character energy.
Oh, yeah, I know, bad. All right, so let's see. 2 weeks after Dumbledore is taken, Harry overhears Draco bragging. He says, I told you he thinks Dumbledore is the worst headmaster the school's ever had. Well, he's bragging that to Crabbe and Goyle, but I think it's funny because actually he told that to Harry and Ron when they were posing as Crabbe and Goyle.
That's so true. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I totally did not pick up on that.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah. He thinks he told Crabbe and Goyle, but Crabbe and Goyle are like, I
don't think you said that. Yeah. When did you say that, Draco? I can't imagine them calling him. I imagine they call him Malfoy too.
Oh yeah, almost certainly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. This is another one of those where I don't remember this being brought to attention so early though. But he's talking about getting a new decent headmaster, someone who won't want this Chamber of Secrets closed. McGonagall won't last long. She's only filling in. That it's like McGonagall's role as deputy headmistress has basically been around since the beginning.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I think that's like one of those where I thought it was like shoehorned in more like after the fact. Like, of course we're going to have a Gryffindor leading, you know, like when all else fails, it's like, it's got to be McGonagall and no one else. But no, pretty much the whole time it's always been McGonagall.
I like, there's a couple of things on this page too, about Snape that I really like, where Malfoy saying like, sir, why don't you apply for the headmaster job? And his response is, Professor Dumbledore has only been suspended by the governors. I dare say he'll be back with us soon enough. And it's just like, there's like a line there that's like, he couldn't suppress a thin lip smile or whatever. But it's like, at the end of the day, Snape's sentiment here is like it's him being loyal to Dumbledore. You know, he's like, don't, it's like, Draco, don't be ridiculous. Dumbledore, he'll be back.
Right. Yeah, you're right, because the way that this whole page is written, it's like when it reads, the way that you're reading it, you see the worst in Snape, as if he's like kind of glad that Dumbledore has gone on.
Maybe I will get the job, or I'm just saying these things like to placate anyone who might hear me or something.
Right. Yeah, because you're right. We got the thin lip smile, and then on the next page or the next chapter or the next paragraph, if I get my words right, it says, "I'll tell Father you're the best teacher here, sir." And it says Snape smirked as he walked off around the dungeon. It's like, yeah, you're right, but like literally the only thing Snape has actually said is just basically posting his allegiance
to Dumbledore.
Yeah. So it's easy to like misinterpret it because you're just sort of like, I'm sure he'll be back soon enough. And it's like, he's like, but he will be back.
But like Snape is like, he knows. He's like, yeah, this isn't going to work out for anyone who's not Dumbledore.
Right.
I would think can't skate past it. Malfoy goes on, says, bet you 5 galleons the next one dies. Pity it wasn't Granger. Like, dude, come on.
I wrote, geez.
What a little turd, man.
Oh man, I know. Malfoy, especially in his earlier years. I've said it before, and it's like I'll say it again. It's like I've tried historically to come to Malfoy's defense, and it's sort of like he's parroting he's parroting the beliefs of his parents, but he says some really mean things. But I also do think that in general, and no offense to any middle schoolers who may be listening, but I do think middle schoolers can be a rather dangerous breed when it comes to the things that they say, because I think they've learned enough to know how to cause damage, but haven't learned quite so much as to have a conscience about it.
Right.
So they just say the meanest
They just say things.
And I mean, and this is true. We all had our high school experiences. It's like you're not safe from it in high school either. But I do think as time goes on, people start to realize the impact of their words.
Yeah.
And they start to be more careful about it. So
I think so.
Probably one of those things where it's like it's about on par for a mean 12-year-old.
Yes. Let's see. And then I think Snape has another good line here. It's like it would seem like a throwaway line, but it's the end of class and he says, "Hurry up, I've got to take you all to herbology," which is just like clearly the professors have been instructed to escort the students around, but like Snape is genuinely doing it. And like he is escorting them.
Right.
He is doing his duty, and it's like even that speaks to like, I don't think the school is going to be closed, because if I thought the school was going to be closed and there wasn't any chance of this, I wouldn't even bother following these rules.
Oh, sure.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, but like he is doing it. He is concerned about the student safety.
Right.
Which is like another, like, you wouldn't notice it because it also says he barks this over the class's head, and then like, whatever. It seems like he's being mean about it. That's sort of his thing. He's like, I am helpful, but I must appear mean.
Right. Yeah. Got to keep up appearances for all those kids with like the pure blood Slytherin parents, former Death Eaters and such. The barked, I think, is interesting because they frequently use barked as how like serious like laughs and things. So it's like maybe Snape is summoning his inner serious Black.
Of course. Yes.
His old BFF from his school days.
Absolutely. Let's see. So next page here, we're in herbology. Here, I highlighted Obsidian Shrivel Fig just to see if there's anything unique about that. It has been used across the Harry Potter canon in several ways, namely in the book. The only times you see it used in the books is for the shrinking solution.
Okay.
And it's actually for third years, so I'm not sure why they're dealing with them at all. Because that's obviously a potions ingredient then. But it's also a potion ingredient in the Elixir to Induce Euphoria and the Thunder Brew, which is like a weapon in Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah. And then, actually the Elixir to Induce Euphoria is also a Half-Blood Prince video game reference. So in the books, it's just for the shrinking solution. So I'm not sure what they're doing with Obsidian Shrivel Figs here.
So we're getting reference to them now, but they will be a potion ingredient next year?
Yes.
Okay, I don't hate that though, because I mean it seems like maybe the growing and handling of them could be something that's like essential to their usage of them in the following school year.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Maybe growing them is less dangerous than using them in their magical capacity.
I guess so, but they're handling I guess they're handling the mandrakes too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's just a little fun fact about shrivel figs.
Yeah, I mean, people, that's what they tune in for. They're like, can you guys better...
Don't skip over that.
Yeah. But so then we immediately go to Ernie Macmillan, who is basically stepping forward and apologizing for the way that he has treated Harry, basically in lieu of the attack on Hermione. And it's interesting because it is this sort of like... it feels like a pretty genuine apology. Like, I think all things being equal, if you wanted your kid to apologize to a fellow classmate and they said these words, you'd be pretty satisfied with the apology itself. But it does remind me of just Ernie's sort of like he kind of has like a endearing smarminess about him.
Yeah.
It's like he's very like if he were out here in the real world, he would be really big about like going to like networking events.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Like just us old DA lags. That's one of my favorite lines in the whole series.
It really is like one of those things. We go way back. We did that one thing together once.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So it does seem like Ernie sort of got like at his heart of hearts. It's sort of like build bridges, not barriers or whatever the phrase is.
He's like a little slughorn in training, you know.
He kind of is,
know?
yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
down there.
Just like I'm collecting people.
I'm collecting people, but I don't think Slughorn collects him though, does he?
Maybe not.
No.
Maybe not so
Too
much.
bad.
He's a prefect though. Eventually.
Oh,
isn't
you're
he?
right. I think he is. Maybe is he at the Slug Club party, Macmillan? I don't know. I don't think so.
We'll have to
Yeah.
keep an eye out for
Let's
it.
see here. But then he immediately, he's like, I do like that he's not proud enough to admit that he's wrong. Then he immediately just dives in, that basically participates in the same exact behavior, just now focusing at Draco instead of Harry.
Yeah.
To which Harry, or I guess Ron is just like, I'm not forgiving you so quick. Like, it's not him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ron has certainly like went through it this year in terms of polyjuicing into Crab and everything. So I mean, he's got good reason to sort of be like, no, it's not him.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is hilarious that this is Ernie sort of like showing some humility and apologizing, and then immediately being like, hey, I'm sorry, I thought it was you, but now I think it's someone else.
Right.
But now you can be on my side about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, trying to find our common enemy to join together over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Speaking of common enemy here, I love there's a line. Harry hit Ron over the hand with his pruning shears, which just seems like dangerous.
Yeah.
What? Maybe tap him on the shoulder, Harry.
Right. There's other things than hitting people with scissors.
I know.
Yeah.
Let's see. But it's Harry spotting some spiders heading into the forest, and he's trying to convince Ron to go do it. And Ron says, aren't there supposed to be werewolves in the forest? Which, this is always interesting to me because you'd think this doesn't feel like the sort of thing Ron wouldn't know about. Like,
Right.
having grown up in the wizarding world, that like werewolves, like, I don't know, are only in wolf form for one night a month.
Yeah, no, it does seem
Yeah.
strange that this would be something. And the thing, because I highlighted that same thing, is it not the exact same question that Draco asks when they're going in?
It is. And so I looked up because I was like, I feel like we brought this up last time as well. And so just as a reminder of why people are concerned about werewolves in the forest, and is there a threat? And the answer is there are quote unquote werewolves in the forest, but no, there is not a threat. So the way it works is, I'm just going to read this straight from the Pottermore article.
Okay, go ahead.
One curious feature of the condition is that if two werewolves meet and mate at the full moon, a highly unlikely contingency which is known to have occurred only twice, the result of the mating will be wolf cubs, which resemble true wolves in everything except their abnormally high intelligence. They are not more aggressive than normal wolves and do not single out humans for attack. Such a litter was once set free under conditions of extreme secrecy in the Forbidden Forest at Hogwarts with the kind permission of Albus Dumbledore. The cubs grew into beautiful and unusually intelligent wolves, and some of them live there still, which has given rise to stories about werewolves in the forest. None of the teachers or gamekeeper have done much to dispel this because keeping students out of the forest is, in their view, highly desirable.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, so this is my mind is jumping around. Obviously, like we've got like the Romulus and Remus reference already being used in the series in the form of Remus's name.
Yeah.
Basically the people raised by wolves, the boys raised by wolves. That's
the founders
story.
of Rome.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is kind of interesting about that, though, is I, inside of this chapter in particular, am extremely curious about what, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but what enables the Weasleys flying forward Anglia to like sort of take on this like magical life of its own, to the tune of like it like, for all intents and purposes, is an inanimate object that had a unique ability to fly, but like it doesn't really suggest any major reason why it would have like started to like form its own sentience,
Right.
if you will.
Yeah.
But especially in a capacity where it would like come charging in to protect Harry and Ron.
Yeah, it seems to have some sort of loyalty still to like Ron as its former owner.
Right. So it feels like a leap. I don't even know if it's really that close, but like in a way, I'm like, was the Ford Anglia like taken under the wing by a couple of werewolves, like werewolf cubs,
right?
Where it was like like raised and taught like a similar form of like loyalty to its former master or something like that.
Oh man, that's. I don't know, because we never see any of these wolves in the forest. It almost seems like we should have.
It does feel that way.
Yeah.
Because it seems like on that basis, it almost feels like what is being described as the product of two werewolves mating and having a wolf cub is almost like a kind of noble creature.
It reminds me of like the dire wolves in Game of Thrones almost.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, like larger, bigger,
bigger, smarter, not aggressive. Well, potentially aggressive, but not targeted at humans.
Right. But also extreme loyalty to their masters as well. So. I could see that. So anyway, this is like something that I think we could probably make a whole video about, and I don't have an answer to as I'm speaking out loud. But the Ford Anglia and like what brings it that sentience is something that I think needs further explanation.
It does. It just sort of seems like it's like, how much magic did Mr. Weasley put in that thing?
I know. Yeah. Some serious like blood, sweat, and tears apparently.
I know, because like it basically has like a mind of its own. Yeah. Well, apparently not even running on gas or anything now. Just running on magic.
Just running on magic.
Just a wild car out there.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. This is a like quick reminder too that like as they're going in there, like Ron had never been into the Forbidden Forest. That's like one of those so easy to miss things because, like in their first year, it's just Harry, Hermione, Neville, and Draco who get sent into the forest, and it's like, oh yeah, Ron wasn't there.
I know that's like one of the most baffling like realizations like way after the fact, or if it's been a minute since you've like read the books, it's sort of like, wait, Ron, I've not been there for it. Like, why would he have not gotten in trouble when they got in trouble? Like, how could he, for plot reasons, not be needed?
Because Norbert bit his hand and he was stuck in the hospital wing, so Harry and Hermione had to carry Norbert all the way up to the astronomy tower in one sentence. Like, oh, that was hard.
Oh, darn. Yep, you're exactly right. The other thing, though, on that exact same line, so it says Ron had never been into the Forbidden Forest before. Harry had entered it only once and had hoped to never do so again. And I highlighted that because, like, that's one of those moments where when you go back to Harry's entrance into the Forbidden Forest the first time, the Centaurs are being like really kind of like uptight about this particular situation based on the cast of characters that happen to be present and their ability to read signs based on the stars.
Yeah.
And so they're like, Voldemort is in the forest. Harry is in the forest. The stars tell us, or Mars tells us, that like this is symbolic of what is supposed
to happen. Yeah.
Right. So Harry's apprehension to re-enter the forest again is almost kind of fascinating because like eventually it is where he will go to die.
Right.
So and that's basically what the Centaurs have slightly off is they don't think that you like look at tea leaves and can understand what's going to happen next Tuesday. They look at like the large planetary movements and know that something will happen during a span of some amount of time.
Right. Like if they're off by, 7 years, like whatever, that's a cosmic rounding error.
Precisely.
But if to them, it's like, oh, the odds of all of these things, like us knowing that it's going to happen and all the people being here at the same time, it's like, well, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, the table is set.
Yeah.
Let's watch it unfold.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, Harry's apprehension, I think, is sort of like, it's like good. It's like he's got like a good gut instinct about the Forbidden Forest.
Yeah.
It could be dangerous.
Yes. Well, he almost died last time and he's almost going to die this time. There you
go.
go. Meanwhile, it's time for Lockhart to show up.
Your favorite.
I know, everyone's favorite. Don't you people realize the dangerous past? The culprit has been taken away. And my only note there was like, it's comforting to me that nobody is comforted by this.
I know. Yeah, I feel like Dean Thomas gets like a nice little one-liner here. It just says Lockhart says that, and Dean says who?
Yeah,
said Dean Thomas loudly. I feel like Dean is like Seamus sort of has this like quiet little like comic relief that he can provide here and there, but I feel like Dean is always kind of got like his finger ever so slightly like on the pulse. Like it seems like Dean, he's not like a major character. He doesn't do like a lot of stuff out loud, like anything like that. But he always seems like kind and sort of has like the right take.
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
So just shout out to Dean
Shout out
Thomas
to
there
Dean, you know?
for having it.
Yes. I love Lockhart goes on. I love his like just belief that like they wouldn't have taken Haggard if they weren't sure it was him. And it's sort of like you could almost see his point. You know, it's like, why aren't more people comforted by the fact that like they took the person who did it last time?
I know.
And it's like, well, it's really because you have such faith in it, Lockhart. And,
It's actually rather like Dursley-ish as well, like total faith in the establishment.
Yes, yeah, it is.
I forget the instance where it comes up, but it feels like, I think that like Vernon is mildly comforted by the fact that there's like a wizarding government.
Yes.
And he's sort of like, well, the government probably knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, leave it to them to think the government's got it all squared
yeah,
away.
exactly. When of course they are just especially corrupt in the wizarding world.
Right.
I love the next sentence. It says, "I flatter myself I know a touch more about Hagrid's arrest than you do, Mr. Weasley." And I highlighted, "I flatter myself," and I was like, that was the actual end of that sentence. I flatter myself. Next.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
but
it.
yeah, but also, what does he know more about Hagrid's arrest? If anything, in this particular moment, Ron knows more about it
that's
because
the thing.
Ron was there.
Ron, that's what's so fun. It's like as much as you might think, like you can pretty much tell Lockhart's obviously lying about everything, but like here's just clear cut proof. It's like, I know more about it than you do. And it's like, you literally don't. I was literally there. I know you don't know more because I was literally there.
Right.
You know, it's like
Right.
you're straight up lying. And now I know for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, any shadow of a doubt, gone. Not that
None.
there was much, but
Yeah.
yep. Oh, let's see. What do we have next here? Oh, just whether in Defense Against the Dark Arts, Harry passes Ron a note saying, "Let's do it tonight." Looks over and realizes Hermione's not there. Stiffens his resolve and is like, "Nope, we got to do it." Yeah. Which I love that. I love that it's like, it's really Hermione that gets him to face his fear with the spiders.
I know we've brought this up a couple of times, and the reason I feel like it stands out to me is because like I've said, you know, I've kind of been like Team Hermione for a long time, but like when you are combing through and you kind of like catch these like tiny little moments,
things.
it's like okay, the setup for Ron and Hermione is not nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's there. They're small, but you're right. I even wrote down, I was like, this is actually pretty sweet. Like it's adorable that like Ron is like, all right, I don't want to face the spiders, but we got to do it for Hermione. Yep, got to do it for the team.
Yep. All right, next up we have Harry and Ron trying to stay up late and outpace the rest of the Gryffindors in the common room so they can sneak out. We get another little nod to Ginny, who's watching them very subdued in Hermione's usual chair. And it's like, I feel like the fact that she's sitting in, quote, Hermione's usual chair makes you feel like she's upset about Hermione, which I mean, I guess she is.
Sure.
But it's like, it's as if she's upset because someone was attacked, not because she did the attacking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, I follow you.
A little more misdirect there.
Yep.
And then they sneak out. They have to dodge all of the teachers, which just like are none of the teachers sleeping now? Like everyone's awake all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like one of those things where like, you know, if there's like a glass door assessment of working at Hogwarts, it's like, yeah, you work long hours, late nights, you don't get a lot of sleep, high stress.
Yeah.
We're constantly under attack.
Yeah.
It's like not a good place to work.
It's good.
Yeah.
Slughorn's not even happy with his pay, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Also, speaking of glass doors, though, they do manage to slid back the lock on the oak front doors. And I'm just like, teachers, you're patrolling the halls all night and no one's on the front door and you're not magically locking it?
Right.
Like,
right.
come on.
Does anybody remember the third floor corridor?
Does anyone?
At bare minimum, they had to use a first year spell to protect that one.
I know. This one is just like, I'll just click. Okay, right out the front door.
No big deal.
Yeah. Like there's no other exit you guys could have taken. There's no other side door by the greenhouses or something or
right.
whatever. Nope. Out the front door. Totally easy. No problem at all. Despite the guards. Whatever. It's fine.
Yep.
They get to Hagrid's hut. I love that they get Fang to stop barking by feeding him treacle toffee from Hagrid's cooking, which glues his teeth together.
I know. It's
so
like
fun.
It's like, oh my gosh, how is any normal person if Fang can't eat it? How is anyone eating?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And then I never understand. Harry is like determined not to use the invisibility cloak sometimes. And it's like, oh yeah, he left the invisibility cloak in Hagrid's table. There'd be no need for it in the pitch dark forest. And I'm like, you can't possibly know that.
Right. Yeah, it's like you've got like this like ace in the hole magical object with you, and it's like, why would I need invisibility?
It'll be dark.
It's gonna be fine. That's an interesting one too, because as far as like throwaway lines that are meant to explain something later, it's sort of like, This doesn't really come up at all. It's not like Harry ends up like losing the cloak or anything vitally important.
Right,
so.
yeah, like you could have just had it with him and not use it. Speaking of non-important lines, as they leave, it says, "Come on, Fang, we're going for a walk," said Harry, patting his leg, and Fang bounded happily out of the house behind them, dashed to the edge of forge, and lifted his leg against the large sycamore tree. It's like, well, thanks for that.
You know, it's like that's an excellent visual. However, there is also another prominent sycamore tree at one other scene in the series, and it's only one other scene.
Oh.
And it happens to be another Ron and Harry and Hermione-less adventure, and it's when they're getting ready to destroy the locket. I think that they set it on like the stump of a sycamore tree.
Oh, did you look up sycamore trees?
I did, because I was sort of like, because I thought the same thing. I was like, this line is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then
Why do we need to hear about Fang peeing?
Right.
Yeah.
But the other interesting thing as well is that if you look into the sycamore wood as like a wand wood, it is described as a questing wand wood in Love's Adventure.
Oh, so
And
this is like the start of a quest, maybe.
it's a little bit of start of a quest, yeah. So symbolic of questing, maybe a little bit.
okay.
Which I would also argue Horcrux hunting is very
questy.
Very questy, yep. So,
questy.
I mean, it's not like deeply, deeply important or anything like that, nor would it be information you should just or would know. But I was like, is there anything to sycamore trees? And that's the best I came up with.
That's, you know what? It's good enough for me.
Okay,
good
we'll
enough
take
for
it.
me.
We'll take it.
Let's see. Then they go for what feels like up to an hour-long walk into the woods. It says they walk behind the spiders for 20 minutes, and then the next page it says they walked for what seemed like at least half an hour. So I can't tell if it's 30 minutes total or 50 minutes total, but man, are they deep in the woods.
That
Like,
would be
50 minutes in one direction at like 1 in the morning.
in
Like,
the darkness.
in the darkness.
I would be terrified.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I would be
Like,
super scared.
You are far away.
Yes.
I can't imagine Hagrid doing this. How often is he visiting Aragog, you know?
I bet often.
I bet often.
They
This is
play
like,
cards every Tuesday.
yeah, right, play cards.
He cheats.
He's got all those eyes. Well, I guess he's blind. Let's see. But okay, so this is one of the things they sort of leave it out of the movie. Prior to getting to the clearing, they come across the car in its own clearing, and I guess what's being done here is just reminding you that the car exists, and now it's in the forest because it's about to have like its big moment.
Right. The thing
Yeah.
about the car traveling through the forest, especially in such darkness, is it's like then there to the right came a sudden blaze of light. It's like if a car is fully lit up in the middle of a completely pitch black forest, you can see it really far away.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not hiding. I mean, I guess it could just be rumbling around with no lights on, and when it sees them,
That's sort of what I'm thinking.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of flicks its lights on at that point in time.
Right.
Yeah. Which I mean, this is the real question. I don't know why I'm so stuck on it, but I am like, what is going on with the car?
Yeah.
Why is the car able to return to some measure of life? Like, do we have any other basis for like an inanimate object like that sort of thinks for itself? He says as it's a book about the diary.
Yeah, I know.
You
Well,
know?
there's that, but it's like the car's not like a Horcrux. I mean,
Right.
Unless maybe Mr. Weasley like literally just poured his soul into fixing it or something.
Which, I mean, on some level, I guess could make sense because, like, we know that this is how portraits work in the wizarding world. Is that like
Right.
they can be? They
That's
can be,
true.
like,
Portraits are kind of like this, aren't they?
yeah, like they're sort of like quasi sentient.
Yeah, they're quasi-sentient. There's like brooms, which Harry says like they're kind of like horses. Like they can tell when you're afraid.
That's a good point
Yeah.
too. That's a good point too, and that's another like
Vehicle.
yeah, if you will. So I could maybe see that, like, or even like wands, you know, like learn from the wizard and the wizard learns from the wand as time goes on. You know, so there's a little bit of that going on.
You know what?
What you got?
Oh, okay.
Lay it on me. I'm excited.
Here we go. I wonder if there's any like thestralness to the Flying Ford Anglia.
Ooh,
Because
it can be invisible.
the invisibility booster. It has the
Yes.
ability to become invisible and it can fly.
It's not the wolves that's training it; it's the thestrals.
It's the thestrals. Ooh.
The flying, yes, because thestrals can fly. Thestrals can be invisible.
Yeah.
The car can fly. The car
can
can
be
become
invisible.
invisible. So, like, maybe the car can join the flock of thestrals, which we know Hagrid has the only trained herd in Britain.
Yeah. But I almost wonder though, like I wonder, like is this how he's getting? Like we have the whole theory about the night bus is a Zowu.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's like is the Anglia a thestral?
Oh my god,
You know what I mean?
Jeez. That would be some powerful.
That would be
magic.
like, yeah. I mean, obviously, we know that he just bought the car and fixed it up and replaced it, so like that doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
But like, there's a bunch of correlations here.
I don't hate the fact that we know that Thestrals, which share these abilities with the Anglia, live inside of the forest. And the car itself sort of like takes on a life of its own, and it's like, where is it learning from, and like what is it getting?
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I like the idea that like that it's even possible in this situation that there are Thestrals around them.
That's true.
That's
true. They could have Thestrals around them. We just wouldn't know yet.
We just wouldn't know.
We just wouldn't know. Oh.
I love it when it's Thestrals.
I love it when I know. Thestrals are part. So other helpful bit there though is that like the elder one is especially sentient. And its core is a Thestral tail hair.
It is.
There we go. Sentience. Thestrals lend sentience to things.
Oh, what a sentence.
Yes.
Okay. Good thinking.
There we go.
Good thinking. You did better than me with my wolves. I was close. I was dancing around it.
Yeah, we were there. Thing in the woods. In the woods. Okay. All right. So let's see. We find the car, and then they also, I think, did they leave this out of the movie? I did not remember this at all. The spiders show up and just like pick them up and carry them the rest of the way.
Yes, that does not happen in the movie. I had forgotten about this as well, that they're like medium grade, like incapacitated from this particular exchange.
Right.
It is more, at least, what happens inside of the Lord of the Rings movies, where Frodo does get just sort of like yoinked.
Yep. All right.
And all wrapped up. It's very creepy. I hate that scene.
Yeah. Shelob.
Shelob.
Let's see. I love the way they describe it as Harry laid eyes onto the worst scene he'd ever laid eyes on. And I was like, yep, that sounds about right. I'm just trying to imagine, like, what would your reaction be? You just like walk down to your basement and you open the door and you can't even see the floor for the number of spiders. I'd just be like, well, we're moving. That's pretty much it.
That's it.
Nope.
That's it. I'm not coming back.
We have lost.
I will never re-enter this space.
Nope. Gone. Like that would be so scary. Gosh. Anyway, then there's Ron. Ron looked exactly like Harry felt. His mouth was stretched wide to kind of silent scream, and his eyes were popping. I could just yell. It's like, you don't even if you're not afraid of spiders, this is scary.
This is scary.
Yeah.
This is like one of those things, though, where I feel like they set up very early on that Harry, like, when he wakes up in the cupboard under the stairs, like, he has spiders all around him.
Yeah.
Like, Harry has some comfort with spiders in general.
Yeah.
And so it's always kind of like an interesting one, because that doesn't come back to play, despite the fact that like his next exchange like with another creature in the first book is basically with the boa constrictor at the zoo.
Yeah.
And his ability to speak parcel tongue is super important to the overall plot. Like that's a huge deal. But the parallels between Hagrid's relationship with Harry, who grows up with like spiders in his cupboard, and Hagrid himself, who grew up raising a spider in a cupboard.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like I can't exactly like bridge the gap perfectly, but like what the connection is, but it feels like it's something.
Yeah. It kind of does. You're right. There's a bunch of parallels there.
Yeah.
Spiders and whatnot.
Right.
But so now we finally meet Aragog, gray in the black of his body, and in each of the eyes on his ugly pincered head was milky white. He was blind, which is okay. So question about this: if you're blind, are you capable of being killed or petrified by the basilisk? Right? Like, it has to fix you with its stare, but like you can't see anything.
That's a good question.
So like Aragog's is like, I was gonna say petrified. Aragog is terrified of the basilisk, but like, is he even in danger?
Is he even in danger?
Right. I mean, I guess it gets to like bite him, but
I know this. I mean, it's even like the glasses question. It's like glasses don't seem like they're enough, but like other lenses, like a camera, are
right.
Seems
like glasses should be Myrtle.
Yeah. Seems like she should have been okay.
Yeah.
And Harry too. No, completely safe.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that have been? Oh no, he would have been petrified. Even I was gonna say, wouldn't it have been hilarious if like Harry's in there? And he's like, but I have safety goggles.
Yeah.
My glasses.
Right. I've got my basilisk goggles on here. They're regular glasses. It's fine.
Right, but he would still be petrified.
Yeah, he'd still be petrified. So, and then you'd probably kill him anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Not that that's been his MO. The rest of the book is like petrified. Ah, butts! I didn't get him with my laser eyes. Guess again, I have no other way of killing them. See ya.
Certainly not the most poisonous poison known to wizard kind.
Certainly not just razor sharp teeth that I continuously talk about, like rip them, tear them, let me eat them. All right, see ya.
Yeah, you talk a big game.
Talk a big game, Basilisk.
Mr.
He's like
Basilisk.
Apparently, it's like maybe he's like, oh, I can get it. Maybe he wants to like cook the food with his laser vision.
Oh,
and he's like, oh, I petrified him again. Now what?
Maybe what's happening is he's going through the tunnels, and because he's been absent for so long, the spiders have put up a whole bunch of webs, and he's just like, rip these webs, tear these webs. They're in my way.
They're in my way. So annoying. So many cobwebs. That would be so funny if he's not talking about people. He's just like, I hate spiders. Oh my God, I hate spiders.
I'm so glad they hate me back.
Yeah. Like, they better hate me, because if I see one of them, that'd be, oh my gosh, I love that idea. Rip them, tear them about the spider webs. Oh my God, I'm gonna be laughing about that all day. Okay, here we go. Let's see. All right, so they start talking about to Aragog about Hagrid. They think up at the school that Hagrid's been setting something on the students. They've taken him to Azkaban, and Aragog responds as, "But that was years ago." Which I'm like, wait, was it? Did he go to Azkaban before? Because I don't think he did, right, Hagrid?
No, I don't think so. Yeah,
I don't think so.
No, yeah.
So maybe he just means that they suspected him. They believed I was the monster that dwells in what they call the Chamber of Secrets. They thought Hagrid had opened the Chamber of Secrets and set me free, and confirms that he did not. Clicking angrily. I like the way they're clicking,
I know, yeah. Kind of a nice setup for later when
Yeah.
Harry's observation about the pincers.
Yes, and right. And now we learn where Hagrid got Aragog, sort of, just from a traveler. We already sort of talked about this. Kept him in an egg in his pocket, which we suspect is Newt Scamander. Great bit of trivia. What is Aragog's wife's name? Do you know?
Pause. Yep. Are you answering out loud right now?
Yeah.
Did you totally nail it?
Did
Do
you
you
totally?
Remember the one time it's ever mentioned? It's Mosag.
It's Mosag, yes.
Mosag.
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 Yeah, that's it. I don't know why that's brought up. Never brought up again.
Yeah, but you
Just
remembered
important
it in trivia once upon a time.
Because it is such a trivia question.
It is such a trivia
It's
question.
like included for the sake of this, it feels like.
Yes.
Let's see. And then Harry says, like, you never attacked anyone? And says, never. It would have been my instinct, but out of respect for Hagrid, I never harmed a human until like 3 minutes from now when I will eat you, friends of Hagrid.
Right.
Yeah. Real hypocrisy here,
right.
Giant Spider-Man.
It is an interesting setup because it's the line out of respect for Hagrid. It's sort of like it needs to define Aragog's innocence back when. Like, no, I would never do that out of respect for Hagrid. It's like in other circumstances, yes, no, I absolutely would have been a danger to everyone.
I would, yeah. I'm looking at that school every day with my blind eyes, like, oh my God, I could just eat them students up. But Hagrid,
what a feast, but Hagrid.
But
yeah,
Hagrid,
so it's like Hagrid is really vital to the safety of the school.
This is Hagrid's real job security. He's like, oh, you don't want me here. Oh, well, I might head into the forest real quick and have a quick chat with someone I know. So don't worry about it. It's fine.
That's really like Hagrid from the very beginning. He was always like, if anybody ever tries to take me from the school, I'm going to send them right at the spiders.
Yeah.
Because without me here, they're doomed.
They're doomed, or I'm going to send the spiders right to them.
Right.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, that's his big ace in the hole. That's why he's really sticking around, right?
Yeah.
And then it's interesting that the spiders consider the basilisk an ancient creature we spiders fear above all others. Well do I remember how I pleaded with Hagrid to let me go when I sensed the beast moving about the school. So they can't just sense it.
So that must be what's going on with the rest of the spiders. I just can't imagine a world where the rest of the spiders, like maybe they all go and they come to again like Aragog's, house or whatever to hang.
Aragog's house.
I've said the glade too many times, and I don't know why, because I keep just trying to think the nest, the burrow, the place that they go. So house.
Yeah, his house.
All the spiders go to his house, but it does sound like instinctively they're just sort of like no spider sense going off.
Yep, literal spider sense going
spider
off.
sense.
Yeah,
That's a thing,
there
isn't
it is.
it? Yeah.
Yes, that's like Spider-Man's real power at the end of the day.
Right.
It's like why he's so hard to beat all the time. He's got tiny bit of precognition going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, but they don't name it. We do not speak of it. Never even told Hagrid the name of the dread creature, though he asked me many times. It's surprising that Hagrid like knows as much about acromantulas that he does and doesn't know about them fearing basilisks.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, I guess, I don't know. Yeah. Because I mean, basilisk is in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and the information is included inside of it.
Yeah. It's like, it almost must be the case that like they're incredibly rare and basically don't exist.
Maybe that's it.
Like,
Maybe that's
like,
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't even know to know about them or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But there is still books about them because Hermione finds it. So I don't know.
Also true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's always kind of like a little goofy is that like, you know, as young students who haven't had like a lifetime of like learning about the wizarding world and stuff like that, it's like they might not be privy to information like this, but it does seem like anybody who's taken extensive training on magical beasts, like, you know, if Dumbledore's like, hey, there's something petrifying students in my school, any experts out there have any idea what might be causing this?
Right.
Like surely someone would be like, yeah, it could be a basilisk if it's an indirect stare. Like someone should be able to send that. Like, let me send you my peer review journal.
Yeah, like why isn't Dumbledore sending an owl to Newt? You know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Just like, hey, FYI, bit of a snafu here at the castle.
Newt's like, I'm sorry, but we opened the hot dog stand. We are way too busy.
We're raising our measles.
Yeah, that's a deep cut reference to Tina, his now wife, eating a hot dog in the opening scene when we meet her in Fantastic Beasts. In case anybody missed it, I doubt they did because everybody listening is like, you know,
they're deep into it.
They're like, I know that mustard only ketchup that Tina eats.
That's right. Why would that be the way she's introduced? Oh my god, she's like otherwise such a cool person.
She's very cool. Yeah, it feels like not in keeping with the rest of her character, but I love it. Yeah. It's great.
Anyway, so Aragog decides that any respect he was showing Hagrid is now's the time to drop it, and he's like, go ahead, family, eat these kids, do it. Hagrid won't mind for sure. It's surprising that he doesn't know about Harry Potter. You know, what is Hagrid not talking to him about Harry? This seems like a great time for Harry to be like, I'm the chosen one. Yeah. This is
Harry, you can occasionally play that card when it's true.
Right, yeah. Maybe he doesn't know that. I guess he doesn't know that about himself yet, but it still seems he could be like, I'm Harry Potter. Voldemort. Me did it.
Aragog's like, Voldemort, you mean Tom Riddle? You mean the guy who framed Hagrid?
Hold on.
We're on the same team all of a sudden.
Yeah. Back off, spiders. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if only. Harry, you got to name drop some, man. You know.
I know. He's too humble.
He's too humble in this situation. Almost got some killed. Thankfully, there's a Thestral car lurking about in the woods, and it's just like, I got you. Shows up. Snaps off some side mirrors. I can't believe the side mirror is only just being snapped off now.
I had the same note. Yeah. I was like, surely these have broken already.
I know, right? They're gone. They're gone on day one.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I gotta love Harry having just the ultimate faith in Hagrid. He says, "I bet he thought Aragog wouldn't hurt friends of his," said Harry. And it's like, Harry, it's okay to be a little mad. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to stick up for Hagrid just now. I'm kind of with Ron on this one.
Hagrid may have messed up a little bit. Yeah. Ron, even on the next page, it says, evidently hatching Aragog in a cupboard wasn't his idea of being innocent.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. I mean, fair.
Yes. Then they make the same connection we do, that the basilisk sounds like a sort of monster Voldemort, even other monsters didn't want to name it. And that sentence right there is almost just like supposed to be your connective glue that like, hey, Tom Riddle's Voldemort.
Right.
Figure it out.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I highlighted the same thing for the same reason, because it is very much like that, like he who must not be named, and the spiders like will not name it.
Right. Because like it's like at this point you'd have no reason to think Voldemort's involved in the story at all.
No, not really.
Right,
yeah. I mean, he hasn't really come up, and last we saw him, he was sort of defeated by Harry. And,
and it's just sort of like the only person you met is Tom Riddle, and
right.
You know, even if you know it's Tom Riddle, you still have no idea that Tom Riddle is Voldemort.
Right.
But like that sentence is your last big clue.
Yes, yeah, because I mean, like as like a young reader, especially, it's like, and without the rest of the series and the knowledge that Voldemort goes on to be so important, like that's the mindset that's hard to get back inside of. Like Voldemort could have just been the villain of book 1, and then like book 2 will have a completely different villain by like a completely different name, and it's just sort of like. But no, they're the same. It's always Voldemort.
Yeah, it's always Voldemort. Let's see. Then Riddle caught the wrong person. That's what I have next highlighted here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, as we close out the chapter, like the really big thing is that like Harry sort of like this is where you can see that like his instincts has like a future potential or could be like coming to the table, because he is sort of like we were talking about earlier. It's like it's not just like his magical prowess. It's like it is his bravery. It's all the other intangibles. It's like the way that like he sets his mind to like working a problem and doesn't really like let it go. But like, you know, going and having met with Aragog leaves him like without a lot of solid answers.
Right.
Now what he needs to do is use all the information he's collected so far and put it together.
Yeah.
And basically it's like, you know, we learn about like the girl who was attacked in the bathroom, and like Harry's just sitting there laying in bed, like racking his mind, like who could it be? Like what could happen? Like I don't know where to turn next. And it's like, oh, wait a second. What if?
Yeah.
Could it be Myrtle?
Could it be Myrtle? Could it be Myrtle? And it's like he also gets so close. He's like, Riddle caught the wrong person, and it's like he still hasn't figured out that it's Tom yet either.
Right.
And it's like, because like here's the thing, Riddle caught the wrong person, and yet the attacks do stop. So it's like they catch Hagrid, and then the attacks stop. So it's like, what did you think? Like that the person who was doing it was like, whoa, near miss. Guess I better just stop now.
Right.
Like I'll let Hagrid take the fall, because like someone who's out there like willing to kill people isn't gonna just like stop. They'd be like, oh, Hagrid got taken. Who cares? I'm gonna keep going.
They still don't suspect me.
They still don't
Yeah.
suspect me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like great. I've still got more opportunity. But it's like, no, Tom didn't want the school to close, and the attack stopped after Hagrid. It was Tom.
You could figure it out. Like this is the type of thing where it's like, again, I go back. If it's like, if this was being released as like a TV show and you
Yeah.
had like a week between episodes and everybody was like on the internet, like all like exchanging their ideas and stuff, it'd be like, y'all, this Tom Riddle character, we just been introduced to him.
Well,
Let's
because
put
it's
the
also
pieces-
like the Scooby-Doo scenario where it's just like, it's like you only met two people in the past, and it was Hagrid and Tom Riddle, and now you know it wasn't Hagrid. So it's like, well,
well,
we
if so
only met like
facto-
3 adults in this movie, in this episode that weren't the gang, and it's one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I mean, that pretty much brings us to the end of the chapter.
It does. The thing, it's like the big question I always have is like, how did nobody ask Myrtle about her death?
I know.
This whole time, like, it seems so out of character for just like for Dumbledore.
It seems out of character for Myrtle.
For Myrtle to not be like constantly whining about it.
Yes. Like, you know, it's like she like I imagine a world where it's like this is not something that she doesn't like. She's a genuine victim of this particular situation. Like it seems like she would definitely bring it up for the like, if nothing, I mean, rightfully so, but for the sympathy.
Yes,
That it would
exactly.
earn her,
Right.
you
She
know?
doesn't seem like someone who is devoid of seeking pity.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So there is that, but yeah, especially with the recent round of attacks, like Dumbledore knows who the last victim was, and it's happening again.
Right.
Like, go talk to Myrtle.
Right.
Even if you didn't for the past 49 years, do it now.
Eventually, he will go and find the like fleeting memory of Winky.
Yeah.
Just so that he has enough information about where Tom Riddle was while he was working at Borgin and Burke's. It's like you're going to that length to find information.
I know. And it's like, and you already suspected Tom Riddle, who you're actively investigating, of killing Myrtle, and you didn't talk to Myrtle.
Right.
Just
Yeah,
like it is such a miss.
But otherwise, it just ends up being some version of Dumbledore's big plan fodder.
I know.
where
It could
it's
also
like-
just be like Dumbledore didn't know. He just wanted Harry to do it
Right.
because Harry got to train him or something.
It's all part of his quest.
But it's just like recklessly irresponsible.
It does
feels
feel that
like.
way. It does
But
feel that way.
Anyway, let me go ahead and give you guys a quick review.
Hey, let's do it.
All right. This one comes from Rebecca Ravenclaw, who says, best deep dive ever. Hey, brothers, love this podcast and being able to deep dive along with you guys and connect some dots I hadn't noticed before. As a fellow Virginian HP fan, it makes me proud to be able to support y'all while you bring joy to the Potter community. I had a theory after listening to the episode on Chapter 13 and wanted to share. Do you think it's possible Tom Riddle chose a Muggle diary so it would be more familiar to Muggle-born students and they'd pick it up first since he wanted to use the basilisk to rid the school of them? Since Ginny only ended up with it because of Lucius, maybe Tom could have originally wanted to frame a Muggle-born student for any attacks that could have happened so they'd seem more dangerous as a whole. Love to hear what you think.
Dang, I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either.
It feels very conniving. It feels very like misdirecty in a way that like is super in keeping with the rest of this book.
Yes.
You know, it's like I said earlier, it's like Chamber of Secrets is all about the red herring. I mean, other than Goblet of Fire, which I would say is the other one that's like tremendous in this regard. But no, I like that thought.
I know that, like, we'll frame a Muggleborn because they'll think it's just a regular diary. Like, like pureblood wizards would never pick up this boring diary.
Right. Yes, especially if it's like notably coming from a well-established Muggle locale.
Yeah.
And I mean the misdirect is so perfect for Voldemort's own plan. It's like you know, allow the blame to go towards the victims.
Right.
You know, it's like it's I mean, yeah. That's a well thought out scenario. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I do too. Because like otherwise, I'm not really sure why he chooses a Muggle diary from like Vauxhall Road. Like we don't get a good explanation. Like other than like maybe you just want like a plain diary that has nothing done to it magically already. Like you just want to like a start from scratch kind of situation.
Like but it still seems so like, especially how much emphasis is placed on the care that goes into the other Horcruxes that are selected.
Yeah,
that's always the thing that has bothered me about the diary is that it always feels so unimportant.
Yeah,
and like even the killing of like the other thing is like the kills attached to each Horcrux creation are supposed to be important, and like, you know, Myrtle, it's like I mean, not for nothing, but she seems like she was not like a well-liked person at school. Like she certainly wasn't regarded as like popular, and then Tom was.
Yeah.
So it's not like they would have had like some reason to have like a well-established relationship.
Yeah, it's more like because she was Muggle-born, her death is more like symbolic of his relationship to Salazar Slytherin and his like intent to carry out his goals.
Yeah.
Or his perceived goals.
Yeah.
We don't know what he really thought.
I mean, it is like one of those moments where I would love to know what happened on Tom Riddle's face when he realized that the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets is now in a bathroom.
Yeah.
He's like, "Are you kidding me? Are you a bathroom?
What?
Wow."
No. Yeah, what was it before?
What was it before?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Oh, anyway, I think that's going to bring us... Did you have something to...
I was just going to say, I don't think I've ever realized the connection before that it's the Chamber of Secrets and like a chamber room can be like a name for a bathroom, like a chamber pot. Is that like obvious?
The whole Chamber of Secrets is just Salazar Slytherin's like private bathroom.
I think it's a small little like play on words that's going on. Like the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets is in a chamber room.
Right, that's funny.
You know, like I've never considered the association with restrooms and the term chamber being attached to the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets before.
Yeah, that's funny.
So anyway, just a small mind blown moment. Otherwise, your review sentiment I think is amazing.
I think very good thought. I like it a lot, but I think that's going to bring us to a close here for Chapter 15. Make sure you join us next week. It's a big one. Chapter 16, The Chamber of Secrets, here on Through the Griffin Door.
Today's episode was edited by Ethan Edgehill. Vaishon Brandon does our art. Catherine Stein is our production manager, and the show is hosted by me and Jonathan Carlin.